Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. The young boy Joshua Smith here with returning guest and social media manager Emily the Great, also known as MB Star on socials. On today's show, we're going to review the final week of the New Japan Cup and also discuss the finals and the fallout, as well as jump into the first early previews of the road to Sakura Genesis. We'll also cover all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support this show and do that by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can get all this network's podcasts and our newsletter over at socialsuplex.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. We are streaming live on patreon.com/KIStrongStyle. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongStyle. And as you may have heard, a little rough of an intro here, getting over slight illness, mostly related to a tooth filling that I had this past week. And then, as you can tell, we are recording a little bit earlier than usual, just to accommodate for the time difference between myself and Emily. So we may have people on the chat today. We may not. It looks like the the advertisement that we sent out says that we're recording about 2.5 hours from now, which we should be maybe done with the show if we're quick by that point. We will see. But we are so glad to have Emily back on the show. Emily, welcome back.
Thank you. We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here for guests, waiting for Jeremy. It's like, oh God, we've had to call me in. We've had to ask for the earlier time and never him.
We actually...
Jeremy, hurry up.
We actually, that's not fair to yourself at all. The last time you were on the show was fantastic. And really what I thought would be happening here, honestly, is I thought that Jeremy would be back for the big show. And I thought, it'd be good for us to get the entire Keeping It Strong Style team together. And luckily, Jeremy, it seems like he may be back next week. So we'll see. I don't know if I'll need a guest next week or not. Or who knows, maybe I'll go solo if he's not back, because it's literally just a Road to show. I don't know how many people want to watch that. But you are going to need to be on your A game since Jeremy's not here. So.
Oh, God. I know. I rewatched all the cup matches today that we're going to talk about. I was like, I got to be prepared, But I don't know. Shout out to all the other guests, though, from the past 3 weeks. They've all been so good, so great. I'll try my hardest.
One quick announcement. So I thought I'd have it out before the time we recorded here. That took a backseat just due to my illness, but I am happy to announce that I am resuming Tanahashi Ace of the Universe on our Patreon series. So that will be recorded tomorrow or the day after and should be live this week. And we are almost done with the 2016 research and should have that out. And if you're doing the math here, basically there's about 10 or 11 episodes remaining. So, we didn't get it finished before January 4th, but we will get that fan favorite series completed. So that's very exciting. And then, last week we had Brian on the show, who me and Jeremy have, spent time with in Japan, but he's not the only guest on the show that is not a stranger to, the land of the rising sun. So the last time that you and I had spoke, we mentioned we might be going to the G1 Climax, and I was like, hey, I don't know if you're going to be stateside, but do you want us to get you some comps? And you said you're going to be in Japan during that time. So what's your travel itinerary looking like, and what's going on with that?
Yeah, it was very nice of you to offer. And I was like, oh, I would love to. I would just come. If you ask, I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, no, going on a family trip, a little 3 weeks away in Japan. We have like a Airbnb in Tokyo for the full 3 weeks. We're gonna just use it as a headquarters and kind of travel from there. So we'll go up to, I think, Sapporo for a couple days. We'll do Osaka, we'll do Kyoto. There's still some things I have to book and actually plan, but it's kind of like easy. I already know where I'm going and what I want to do and what they want to do. So it's just a case of actually putting it together.
And this is, I'm assuming, your parents, and is it just immediate family, or are you taking friends?
My parents and my brother, and then that's it.
Okay. And now I know you've lived in Japan. Have they ever been there?
No, never. So they're very excited. Well, there's excitement and nervousness, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt that I wouldn't imagine they'd be listening to this show, but an experienced traveler like yourself, they're probably going to be in good hands. And as we both know, nothing to be worried about, an extremely safe country. And, you guys are probably going to have a blast. Are there any particular, I know you mentioned a few places you guys are going, but are there any particular sites or activities that they're looking forward to or that you're looking forward to? Are you going to be watching any wrestling at all?
I hope we can catch some wrestling. I'm sure we'll go to Cork in a couple days, at least a couple times. It just depends on the G1. They're touring the country. I'm touring the country. I don't know if our schedules will align. I hope. My mom is excited to go to Disney World, I think. Because we were originally meant to go to Orlando. And then we kind of worked it out price-wise. And we were like, it's actually cheaper to go to Tokyo and like travel there for 3 weeks than it is to like spend like 3 weeks just in Disney World in Florida. So we're like, oh, let's just go to Japan. We've been to Florida enough. So I think my mom's excited to go there. Nintendo Museum. The boys are excited for that. I'm excited about that too. I have to book that though. So hopefully we get like a good slot for that.
Yeah, that was one of the few things I didn't do much of when I was there, just because the time constraints, but I didn't go to very many museums, and the Nintendo one was one. I know Bandai has one. I know that there's a Pokemon one. There's I saw the ramen one. And then that's just like kitschy sort of stuff. I understand that there's like a lot of other like, scholastic, like serious, sort of museums that exist, and art exhibits. So I didn't get to really do too much of that stuff. One thing that you had mentioned, I forget what it was, but Disney. So I don't know if you listened earlier in the year, but like me and Jeremy, we ended up staying at the resort right at Disney.
Oh yes. I don't know why he did that.
we got some bad intel, and it's a learning lesson, so we know not to do that next time. But one thing that I noticed, one is when you're on the rails there, we got to see the lines in the middle of the day. Granted, it was around holiday season, but like we live in Florida. I've been to all the Disney Worlds, and it can be slammed. But like the lines that I saw in Japan at their Disney World, like just completely washed what we have like in Orlando. I was shocked at how busy and how long the lines were just to get into the park. So I couldn't even imagine what it's like once you're in there. So I don't know. You guys might want to get like those fast passes.
Probably. And then when I went to Disney when I was living there, I think we went on a Thursday because that was like the day off uni I had. So it's like, your day off, let's just go to Disney. But I lived on like up near Saitama. So the highest point of Tokyo you can get. So it was like super long, like takes like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get there. And then got there for 8 a.m. and the lines were still like huge, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, it's just gonna be a day of this. But I think once you get in there, it's fine because everyone kind of scatters about a bit. It doesn't seem as bad.
Okay. The other thing,
but yeah, actually getting in takes a while.
The other thing that I thought was cool, and you probably, obviously, you know this, you've been there, but like when you're on the actual like trains, each station has their own designated like little jingle that you associate. That way, like if you're sleeping and you hear the jingle and you're like a local, you know where you're at. But the Disney monorail, they have the jingles too, but they're all like Disney songs. So it's like a whole new world and stuff like that, which I thought was, that's like the only thing I liked about being over there. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But let's, we definitely, oh, you know what, before we jump into anything though, so we always like to get this kind of out of the way. What projects do you have going on? Are there any plugs that you'd like to, you know, make mention of so that people kind of know where to follow you and know what you're working on?
Yeah, so similarly to your Tanahashi one, I kind of have a written version, not for Tanahashi, for the Golden Lovers instead. I'm up to the middle of 2022, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so really there's not much left. Like, it's just Kota's couple matches in AEW, the handful of stuff. So yeah, if you're interested in that or want to learn more, you can get in there. It's my blog, it's on Medium. And I'm also doing a CMLL diary for this year, trying to get into that more. So that's been a lot of fun. I just put out February and March's editions, so you can check that out too.
Oh, that's awesome. And you said it's on Medium. Where can people go to find this stuff exactly?
That's a good question. Medium.com, and it will just be the same as all my socials, so MBstar. So it's probably like medium.com/MBstar. Okay. I'm gonna assume.
Or if they go to your socials, I'm assuming that there are like tag posts.
It'll be there.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
When did the Golden Lover start? Is that like 2010? 09?
2008.
2008. Okay, I was pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, so you've been chugging along at that project for quite a while now.
Yeah, since May of last year.
And I mean, moving forward, like how much more in depth will you be getting with these, you know, between like 2023 to 2026? Because there's been so limited interactions and, you know, activity, especially from Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of interviews. And sort of things like that I can go through and use. There's a lot of good points to be made, especially how 2022 is kind of like the inverse of 2008. When you just look at them as people and characters and their positions in their career. So there's things like that I can mention, but I'm not going to go super, it's not going to be crazy like my earlier chapters where it was just like non-stop information overload. You're not really going to get that here. Which is why I'm like, just catch up now, because these are going to be 2 short chapters, and then we're going to be done.
Well, that's very exciting. So definitely check that out. Let's jump into New Japan Cup final week. So we had 3 nights here of tournament action. The first night picks up on night 10. This was last Tuesday, March 17th, from Big Palette Fukushima, Koriyama. We had a reported attendance of 707. We'll be talking a little bit about undercard stuff, but we're not going to be going super in depth on that stuff. The show opened up. We had the House of Tortures, Owens, Kanemaru, and Yujiro. They were victorious over Team 100 and Masatori Yasuda, 9 minutes and 27 seconds. Yujiro hit the pimp juice on Yasuda for the victory here. There was one kind of cool development I saw when I watched this match. Yasuda, he hit a top rope assisted flip senton, which is something you don't really see young lions hit very often. And he also survived a submission finish and a secondary finish from Yujiro that caused him to have to break out his main finisher, the pimp juice. So in the past, that's the sort of thing that probably would have beat Yasuda. So kind of just showcasing some of his, his growth as a young lion. And then in the post-match, we started seeing Yujiro and Chase Owens both backstage kind of angling for, the upcoming match with Takeshita backstage, which played itself out the following, night of the tour. Any thoughts about that, storyline or just anything with Yasuda at all?
I think I had stuff written for the last tag night for Yasuda. Just sort of like, he is pulling out stuff that you wouldn't normally see from Young Lion, which is quite fun. I have nothing to say about Chase Owens. Yujiro, though, he's been kind of fun this tour.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, what have you done with, the normal Yujiro I'm used to?
I wonder if there's, pressure right now just with some of the changing landscape. And he's like, I might need to endear myself a little bit, make sure that I got a paycheck coming for the next couple of years,
Gotta put my working hat on for this one tour.
We second match of the night, we had the House of Torturers, Dick Togo, Fale, and Narita. They were successful in defeating Aaron Wolf, Tetsuya Matsumoto, and Toriano 901. Narita hits the figure 4 knee bar on Matsumoto for the submission victory. This is a continuation of Wolf versus House of Torture all tour long. And, Narita had lost in the previous cup night, so this is him sort of just rebounding, getting some of that heat back. Third match of the night, we had the Knockout Brothers defeating the TMDK team of Hartley Jackson and Ryohei Oiwa 726. Oscar successfully gets the Nightmare Sleeper on Hartley for the definitive submission victory. This was, essentially an opportunity for TMDK to kind of campaign as a duo, meaning Jackson and Oiwa, for a tag team title shot. Obviously, that story is going to develop a little bit further than what we knew at the time. But, while this was kind of going on backstage, we've had developments where Fale and Owens and Hanari and Okan have all been throwing their hat in the ring when it comes to being the challengers for the IWGP tag team titles. And as of now, unless something changes on the road to, they are not in line for that title shot. So we started to kind of see the first, rumblings of what would develop as Ice and Oiwa post-match, just a ton of heat between them. That would kind of continue for the next, several nights. Any thoughts about kind of the direction they're taking things with these teases of other teams and then kind of going in another direction? Any thought to what they might be doing there?
I don't know. I think I do like the swerves. I like that the Knockout Brothers are getting tag matches still on these, just these tour undercards. It's nice that they're not just always in 4-mans or 5-mans. The fact that they are getting, 2-on-2 tag situations to just reiterate, no, we are the champs and we do run this division. I think the Oiwa and Ice stuff has been really good this tour. So
Rich Latta is in the in the chats here, and he says Callum Newman equals the super worker. White man has found the proper place back in NJPW. He's on top. Also mentioned 1 year ago, it was lonely on Newman Island. I welcome everyone. Young Boy and Jeremy were there too. So
thank you.
A little bit of a victory lap there for those who kind of saw the vision at the time. We're going to talk obviously a lot more about Callum as the show continues. But Emily, were you on Callum Newman Island a year ago?
I had a foot. I had a foot on the beach. And then I kind of got back on my boat and was like, I don't actually really want to be here. and now I've got one more foot back on the beach again, but I'm not fully there yet.
I do want to point out, you mentioned that the Knockout Brothers, you said that they're not in 4-mans and 5-mans, but technically a straight 2-on-2 tag team match is a 4-man. I think what you meant was 8-man and 10-man tags.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna get that Nicky thinking about it. Sure.
No, but I do agree. I think it's been good that they've stayed active as a kind of defending tag team, kind of putting their spot in the line even in non-title action. So I am still a little hesitant about them teasing Fale and Owens and Hanari and Okan, but either that stuff is going to be played out in the lead up to Sakura Genesis. Maybe we'll get more tag team title defenses along the way, or those could be seeds planted for whatever's coming after Sakura Genesis, which I'm not In the case of Fale Owens, I'm not necessarily high on that, but Hanare Okan, that sounds good.
Yeah, you said Fale and Owens the first time, and I tried not to burst out laughing to like interrupt you. I was like, oh my god. I was like, surely not.
The fourth match of the evening, Unite Empire's Akira Okan, Hanare, Jake Lee, and Jacob Austin Young. They defeated the Unbound Companies, Drilla Maloney, Gedo, Shingo, Ishimori, and Yota Tsuji, 11:35. Jacob Austin Young, JAY, he hits the Bite the Dust on Gedo. This was a junior tag team title preview match. Robbie X has not been on the tour since he was stretcher jobbed during the when they won the titles, but this was a chance to see Ishimori against Akira and JAY. The Unbound Company and United Empire feud kind of continuing here. Post-match, we got something kind of interesting. I don't know if you saw this, but Tsuji was able to put on the black glove and put his fingers in the mouth of Jake Lee and do the whatever the fuck it is that Jake Lee does, kind of get some post-match comeuppance there, which I thought, I don't know, I don't get the gimmick at all. I don't know if you have thoughts on the Jake Lee glove thing.
I just don't like Jake Lee. I just never have. Like, even in Noah, I was like, oh my god, I hate this man so much.
Is there a particular reason that your hate has predated the most recent, kind of gimmick change for this guy?
I think I only knew Jake Lee existed when I went to Noah shows, sort of in person in Japan, and it was always like some 40-minute main event match that was just boring. It was just so boring, and I was like, oh my god. And the last one I went to was the one where Gedo showed up and like recruited him to the Boar Dogs.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's no way. Like, I was just sat and they're like, there's no actual way he's coming to ruin the actual promotion I do watch. So yeah, no. It's just boring. I'm sorry.
One other bit of developing news there. So Hanare has been sort of angling, especially in his most recent New Japan interview on NJPW1972.com, talking about having aspirations to go for the global title against Tsuji or whoever has that belt and challenge for it and defend it in Oceania. So I don't know if that's just wishful thinking, but something to kind of look out for. The fifth match of the night, Oleg Boltin and Yoshihashi, they defeated Tomoaki Hanma and Yuya Uemura, 940. Yoshi gets the butterfly lock on Hanma for the submission victory. I've noticed that Yoshi has gone back to the shitty version of the butterfly lock that we used to roast on this show instead of the improved version that he started doing a few years back. I don't know why he's reverted back to the weak version of this move that I absolutely detest, but he has.
What's the difference? What's he doing?
This one, like, he just basically only grabs one arm and the other arm is just kind of sat over his thigh and there's nothing happening there. And he's just like, and then they like tap out. But
they're just shaking.
Yeah, but he had a version where he was actually capturing both arms and like wrenching on the neck and putting something that was of substance on, and he's gotten away from it. I don't know. Probably because he knows that he's Yoshihashi and he's gotten his like pushes and runs and this is probably as good as it's going to get for him, He doesn't have to bother hooking another arm. Yeah.
Like, is that how lazy we're getting?
If like, Goto had his big run and they didn't see any money in potentially running Bishamon Explodes even just once, that's it for him. Like, there's no more opportunity. I mean, he's already won his titles and yada, yada. So who knows? With that being said, this was the final preview tag match for the remainder of the tour, and that would be Oleg Boltin versus Uemura the following show. So that leads us into our two quarterfinal matches of the evening. We started off that night with Hiroki Goto versus Callum Newman. This match went 12 minutes and 43 seconds. Going into the match, Goto had a 1-0 record, a very famous, IWGP title defense against an unexpected Callum Newman just the year previous. And this was the rematch, and kind of shockingly, maybe to some people, others were not so surprised. Callum Newman was victorious here. He gets the pinfall victory, 12 minutes, 43 seconds. He hits the Prince's Curse and moves on to the semifinals of the New Japan Cup. We do have a comment here. Rambone Slam Pig says, Yoshihashi embracing Makabe style New Japan dadism. So I think that's exactly what it is. Emily, what were your thoughts and kind of predictions going into this match with Goto and Newman?
I wasn't shocked that Newman won. I felt like that was kind of always the way it was going to go. I was left wanting a little more from this match. I felt like it was pretty good, but there was nothing really to write home about. And it's like, I feel like they maybe have a better one in them. I don't know if it's just because they were the semi-main and they're like, oh, there's like only 700 people here, like don't really worry about it like that. But yeah, I kind of expected a bit more.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that they didn't go a bit longer and that there wasn't a bit more of that epic feel to the match itself. But what I've started to notice, and it kind of played itself out almost through the entirety of the tournament until the semifinals, is that Callum was finding ways to win these matches in as quick a fashion as possible. And I think that was part of the overarching story of what he had going on that helped kind of propel him deeper into the tournament, where he was kind of wrestling the matches with urgency. So instead of them like looking to kind of have him work these epic style matches the way they did like Yuya and Umino, he typically wasn't in the main event. He was usually on the semi main event, and he was usually wrestling sub 15 minutes, which was, he went into coming out of this match, he pretty much established himself as having the least match time of any of the four guys going into the semifinals. And I think that's kind of part of the narrative of what they're telling there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't bothered by the length. I was more just bothered by the lack of substance. It was a lot of character work by Callum in the beginning, which was fine, like a lot of taunting and that. And then they took it outside, which Callum's been doing a lot in like all his cup matches.
Yeah.
And the story was just Goto trying to stand his ground. It was inoffensive, is how I'd describe it, but could have done a bit more.
Yeah, I think they definitely could have gone a bit more with it. I expect, given what's occurred in this tournament, that this won't be the last time that we see these two, match up. So yeah, I think you can almost count on them having at least another G1 match in this calendar year at minimum. I would, bank on that. But as far as the action goes, you're absolutely right. Like Callum essentially was doing a lot of like kind of character work, a lot of jeering and taunting of Hiroki Goto. One thing that I noticed is he immediately attacked with the knee to the rib cage, and I think that was part of a broader game plan, and the fact that Goto had wrestled Jake Lee in the previous round and taken a lot of shots to the midsection from the knees, and so that kind of opened up a door for Callum to kind of put him on the back pedal right from the get-go. And there were lessons and allusions to the match they'd had the year prior, where like the year previous, Callum Newman was doing everything in his power to like show that he was trying to gain the respect of Goto and stand there and prove himself and take all the shots he had and show his toughness. And in this one, Goto was doing the same thing, kind of trying to play mind games to Callum, and Callum just didn't really fuck with it at all. Like he took every cheap shot that he could find and was super duper duper offensive in this one, and kind of put Goto in a position where he was wrestling defensively and counter wrestling almost the entirety of the match. And especially like you talked about, a lot of outside brawling using the environment on the outside, including like the guardrails. And there were a couple times where Goto seemed to get back into it, but there were distractions with the ref and Zane J getting involved. And ultimately did open the door for Goto, or for Callum to hit the Prince's Curse. But that, for me, I thought kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. Like he hit it, and I didn't think he was going to win. And then it was over, and it was pretty definitive.
Yeah, I think he pushed the ref, right?
And he's been doing that all throughout the tournament, where it's like he'll push the ref, he'll go for a low blow, and then use that to either hit the Excalibur or hit the Princess Curse.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then that was it.
Yeah, and that was pretty much it. And I mean, the big difference with him and like the rest of like say House of Torture is like those guys were cheating quite a bit in their matches, but it was just an overabundance of it. Whereas like Callum was still made to look fairly strong throughout this tournament, but still resorting to a couple underhanded tactics reliably almost every single match that still allowed him to kind of gain an advantage and create an opening for him to hit his finishers. But by and large, he wasn't needing, like, for instance, Zane J to run a million interferences in the match the same way like Narita or Fale were, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. And that's something Chris Charlton would say, like, in one of his later cup matches, is that Callum was very good at directing Zane J. Just little distractions. He didn't need to come in and actually get physically involved, but he was very good at knowing where to be at the right time.
Yeah, and, another thing with that is there kind of was a running thing where a lot of these guys, like Goto came out with Yoshihashi, a few of the other guys that he had wrestled Callum during the tour, they had people with them, and they weren't really able to, like, even the odds and kind of, like, let down the guys that they were cornering for. So it's not like Yoshihashi, like, did anything to kind of help Goto here or, like, improve his situation. He just was a body, basically. So with that being said, Callum Newman moves on. One last thing I will say is, like, last week when we did our previews and predictions, obviously me and Brian were pretty far off, but I was really banking on at least either Goto or Zach, one of the two, like, senior established, draws / former champions to kind of be put in position, because I had a lot of questions about if they go with all the young guys, how is that going to play itself out from a business standpoint, and how do they book that? And Goto lost here, so I started to really have some fears for Shota Umino going into the next match, because I was like, oh, okay, then I guess that means Zach is winning. But that's a good segue to go into the main event here. So the final quarterfinal match of the 2026 tournament, we had Shota Umino defeating Zack Sabre Jr. in a classic 25 minutes, 38 seconds. Shota was able to hit the second chapter for the pinfall victory. This takes them to, in their all-time record, they were tied 3-3. Shota goes up, and he's now 4-3. These guys have traded wins back and forth for like an 8-year period at this point. Some of the more significant matches they'd had was Shota Umino's Young Lion trial in 2019 when he lost to Zach. And then they've had 5 singles matches post-excursion, including 2 New Japan Cups, 2 G1 matches, and 2 title matches, including the TV and the IWGP title. This is all over a 4-year period. So they have this trend of like trading wins back and forth until they even things up. And once again, Umino has gone up in the series. So now Zach is kind of chasing and trailing him.
For sure. I think this was great. Like, this is obviously great. I think these two work very well together. I would say their G1 match from last year was probably better. But that was like, that's a very hard match to beat, I think, especially just on a random cup night. But you still had that reoccurring story going in of Zach sort of saying that Shota is wasting his potential away. And it's like, okay, I'm going to force it out of you. I'm going to force something out of you. And he basically got too hung up on doing that.
Yeah.
In this match, which led to his downfall. He was too busy trying to pull something out of Shota. And then when he did, it's like he lost because of it. It's like, well, maybe you should be careful what you wish for.
I noticed when they opened up the match, they started with a lot of heavy grappling, which is not uncommon for like a Zack Sabre Jr. match. But, Umino, he had that lengthy excursion in the UK and definitely got a good taste of learning how to work like the chain grappling and catch style. And I would say for like the first 3 or 4 minutes, that was primarily what they were focused on, was reversals and, trying to ground one another. And I thought Shota Umino showed a propensity to really hang with Zach during that portion of the match and kind of showcase that he's not necessarily outside of his element doing that with him. But a lot of these guys are really banged up. It's been like a running theme where different people have taped, body parts and kind of, carrying the damage from what was potentially done to them in previous tournament matches. This is one of the things that differentiates like a New Japan Cup from, just a standard, singles match at the end of a road to, is that there are these overarching stories. And so with Shota, he's had a taped arm, and Zach really focused on that, and that kind of became, in many ways, the target for Zach. And you don't want a target like that because he's going to do everything in his power to exploit it. And there were many stretches in this match where he put Umino through hell, just basically finding sick and creative ways to damage that arm and control him for large periods of the match.
Yeah, like you said, those first 5 minutes were kind of just grappling, but a good portion of that was just Shota had a cravat in for a really long time, and Zach just couldn't get out of it. No matter, he kept trying and he just could not get out of it. Which kind of speaks to Shota's increased kind of bulk and power to be able to hold on to that for so long and stop someone so technical from being able to actually reverse that, which is so unusual for Zach. So it was classic work from Zach, but I think Shota was able to play really well into it. And the arm injury, oh my god, can I speak? The arm injury the night before was very well established to play into it tonight and the night after.
Yeah, Zach was very much controlling the match in terms of whenever he got an opening, he'd go after that arm. But in between, kind of the story of the match here was Umino, like you said, the fact that he's put on bulk and he's added power, where he was able to get himself back in the match oftentimes was with large power moves and kind of appealing to Zach. How you mentioned Zach was trying to get something out of Umino and bring the fire. They would go into strike exchanges, and for the most part, Umino was dominant in those interactions. And so this was kind of like the ebb and flow was like Zach would control him, have him hurt, and then Umino would have to fight his way back in, show the fire, and do that with huge strikes and huge power moves. And then Zach would get in trouble and he'd have to cut him off and go back the arm, and then they'd go back and forth, so on and so forth. I noticed that Umino, he's been doing this a lot lately, but he really showcased it in this match was these variants that he's been doing of the DDT, whether it's like the slinging off the top rope and hitting the tornado DDT. He does one to the outside on the apron, and then he killed Zach with one that was a draping DDT onto the floor from the guardrail. And that's like 3 separate instances where he was focusing on Zach's neck and softening him up for the second chapter.
Yeah, there was later as well. He reversed the Zach driver into a DDT. He got so high up. He's like 180 degrees before he came down. And that was nasty.
There was definitely a lot of physicality here. Towards the end, Zach actually, prior to the end, Umino was able to steal a Zach driver, which was pretty impressive, and kind of steal his finisher. Later on, Zach hit a massive lariat, which is obviously one of the major tools in Umino's arsenal, and just straight up busted Umino's nose and had him bleeding in the last stages of the match, which that continued to play out in the following matches on the tour as well. But ultimately, as close as Zach got to almost submitting this guy, like Umino showed his durability, his toughness, and ultimately down the stretch, he was able to get out of all the submission and pin attempts from Zach and pepper him with huge moves, hit him with the lariat, and then got him up for that second chapter and beat him with the 1-2-3.
I think that's a really great finishing sequence for Umino. The crazy lariat into the second chapter. I'm like, wow. You see that and you're like, yeah, how are you gonna kick out with that?
Well, I think for him what's been interesting is last year was the whole, I shaved my head and then I'm wearing all the white and kind of developing this new persona, yada yada, and he wore the white all year long until this tour essentially. And it was last year where he almost won the tournament, went to the finals against Dave Finley, and that's where he started to kind of up the physicality and kind of work a closer style to like a Kensuke Sasaki or those sorts of guys. I still don't know that I would classify Umino as like a strong style type wrestler necessarily, but he definitely leans more that way now than he did prior to New Japan Cup 2025. I know that Umino's like one of your favorite wrestlers. Is there anything that you've kind of noticed in his development, and how did you feel when he brought back the pink and has kind of like brought back the new, the older look, kind of revamped?
I mean, the pink is great. I think the pink really suits him. I think it's a good, unique sort of look to have. It's not something that anybody else is doing. I think the all white last year was a little rough. Like, we got near the end of the year, I was like, okay. I was like, can we please do something else? Like, this is a lot of white. But yeah, I've loved the style change. The more just kind of throwing bombs, the more kind of never division sort of wrestling is how I describe it. But there are some things that are still there, the bridging suplex and things like that. Like, he's always done that. The draping DDT, that's a staple for him. But yeah, I definitely prefer this new style. Like the mixture, you've got the old idol character with the pink and the things like that, but then you have the new second chapter moveset to kind of go with it. And I think this is a nice blend.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, a hybrid, because I hadn't thought of it that way. We had a comment here from Rambo and Slam Pig. He says, hell yes, fellow Umino enjoyer on the pod, to tell the truth.
I got you. Don't worry about it.
One last thing before we move on to the next night. The fuzzy trunks. A lot of hate on that. Me and Jeremy were pro fuzzy trunks. Where did you land on that spectrum?
The Wrestle Kingdom ones?
Yeah.
Or just they were interesting. There was a lot of fuzz. I do like the fuzz. I'm pro fuzz, but it was like his whole leg was fuzz, and then his other leg was tiny, skinny tassels. I was like, maybe a bit more equal. I will just say, if I can just put one more thing into this match before we move on. Post-match, Umino did a lap around the crowd.
Forever.
And it's the exact same thing that Yuya had done in his previous main event. So there was sort of that parallel between the two, that sort of bubbling beneath the surface, sort of leadership for Hontai kind of tug going on. And lots of we mentioned it in the Discord, like women screaming.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing a lot more like high-pitched Yuya and Shota chants during the matches. They've always existed, but they're increasing. So it is interesting how you mentioned, like, it almost feels like they are kind of campaigning. They're going out post-match and they're glad-handing, they're kissing babies, they're wiping their sweat on people's towels, and like, who else do we know that used to do that? And
I had to explain that to my dad. Like, because he couldn't see the show, but he could hear it.
Yeah.
And he heard like one of the women just screech, and he was like, what the hell was that? Like, what just happened? I had to explain. I was like, well, they have these supporter towels, and the goal is to like get the sweat. And I was like, but Umino's nose is busted, so they're extra excited because they're getting like blood as well. And my dad was like, are they trying to clone him back at their house? Like, why
they're
why
trying
would they
to get
want
DNA
that?
to test him,
Yeah, they're trying to like make a test tube version of him, and I'm like, I'm not really sure. I'm with it.
Yeah, one of the ladies, she lost it, like such a hype, like she literally like convulsed. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy.
So real though. Like, I think I would too.
So we move into the semifinals here. So the four principals involved: Oleg Bolton taking on Yuya Uemura, Callum Newman taking on Shota Umino. We did have a press conference on Thursday, March 19th from Nagaoka. The full translations, obviously the full video of that is available on both YouTube and njpw1972.com. Or I'm sorry, on New Japan World. And then there was translations of the like an abbreviated version of the comments on njpw1972.com. Credits to Chris Charlton and the team over there for those translations. Couple quick comments that I picked up. Oleg Boltin, he talked about his progress, desire to be the strongest, testing his strength against not only the individuals in this tournament, but he wants to face the IWGP champion and prove that he, can carry that, title. One thing is he wants all of Kazakhstan to see his matches and to see him succeed and kind of tell people about like what is capable for the amateur wrestlers there and how they can transition to pro wrestling as well. He talked about the 2024 bout between himself and Yuya Uemura getting canceled. And then the fact that when they did wrestle last year, their only match to date, he lost in the G1 to him due to a wrestling hold. And for a guy that was ranked like 5th in the world, that was a little bit humbling. Any general, just quick thoughts about Boltin and his comments here?
I mean, I love Boltin. I think he's so cool. I put him up there with, like the Yuyas and the Shotas. I'm like, he's got it. He really is. Could be the guy. How big is Kazakhstan? It's not that. Is it that big?
You're asking the wrong person. I use ChatGPT, or not ChatGPT. I use Google Maps, basically just like around the corner, just in my local city. I don't know where the fuck I am at any time. I have terrible sense of direction. So on a world scale, where's Kazakhstan? I don't know. I mean, I only knew about Kazakhstan when from what's it called, Lake Borat. That was the first time I ever heard about Kazakhstan.
Yeah. Kazakhstan has 20 million people.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure you Googled that.
That's a big, yeah. I was just wondering, like, when he said he wanted all of Kazakhstan, I'm like, how much? How much is that?
Well, it would be...
That's a good goal to have.
It'd be fantastic if New Japan World could get those subscriptions in Kazakh,
Just 20 million. They'd have to get, like, commentary. Just for them.
Rambone says 18 million of them are already awesome wrestlers.
Well, that's an easy 18 million new fans to get then.
Yuya also mentioned, he says, even though they both want to be the best, he wants to test his strength against someone as superhuman as Oleg and, that he wants to prove the naysayers wrong. He's not just another roster member, but that it's time for him to stir up a heat storm. So these guys had a lot of, kind of a positive, competitive nature here, shook hands, mutual respect. I thought Yuya's comments were a little concise, and I think it's good that he's wanting to make a statement saying that he wants to stand out from the crowd, but I don't know that I was necessarily, those comments didn't scream to me like ace of the company, I'm here to like fuck up shit, you know what I mean?
I can see what you mean. I didn't actually see this myself, but in the notes here, yeah, it seems like he didn't actually say much. It's interesting because Tanahashi had an interview last week, and he specifically named Yuya and Shota as the two young guys who are being encouraged to do more promotional media, like radio and charity work and representing New Japan. So again, that kind of just adds more to their tug for the Hontai leadership. So yeah, they're trying to do more.
Immortality 777 says, can't wait for a road to Dontaku Night 4 in Kazakhstan. And Rambo and Slam Pig says, live from Astana Public Arena. So
we're sorted. Now, New Japan, you just need to hire me. I'll get you over at Kazakhstan.
Callum Newman, he talked about, he had a lot of pretty inflammatory things to say. He talked about Shota Umino being the biggest joke in the company, the fact that he always fails and has... he doesn't even have support from his own family in the company. Mentioned that Umino's never going to get closer to the cup than that press conference because they have the cup sitting right there. And he also talked about the fact that he's bored watching Shota Umino at this point. When they first met in England, Callum was 17 years old, and he thought that Umino was amazing at that time. But since then, Shota has literally accomplished nothing. He hasn't done anything since that time, and during that same period, Callum has debuted here, become the youngest to ever challenge for the IWGP title, the youngest to hold any sort of IWGP Tag Team Gold. And he basically said that his 2 years are already greater than Umino's entire career at this point, and declared that he's going to be the youngest ever to win the New Japan Cup. And if that happens, Umino's terrified of the fact that he's going to surpass him. We did have a question here from Careford13. He says, with how down United Empire were after Ospreay's departure, do you guys feel like they're back to the United Empire of old, or even better with Newman as kind of leading the group in this New Japan Cup?
I'm probably not the best person to ask because I don't really like United Empire. I never really have.
Why are you on this episode? This is a wrong episode for you to be on.
Look, I didn't think the finals were gonna go the way they went, and I accepted it. Okay, I would have changed my answer if I knew what was gonna happen.
You thought that this was gonna be Shota and and Yuya
yeah,
in the finals.
I don't know essay ready to go. No, I just always thought United Empire a bit they're a bit sauceless to me. They're just kind of, I don't know what it is. They're just missing a little something, and that's not against Callum. I think Callum is I do think he's good. I think he's gonna get even better as the year goes on. But the group itself, I kind of find it's more of an anchor to him than helpful, and I don't know. There just needs to be something else there.
Well, I think that for me, this development with his character and his push through the cup has done a lot to kind of restore some semblance of, legitimacy to the group. So there's that. And a lot of the things that he said here, even though it kind of discounts the successes that Umino has had, the victories over guys that he's had, or, headlining the Dome or getting to the finals of the New Japan Cup. There's a lot of truth that rings to it in the fact that, Umino hasn't had a lot of singles gold. He hasn't, he has fallen short in a lot of tournaments. And I personally believe that while these comments are building up Newman in kayfabe, I think it's also long-term planting seeds for the eventual push of Shota Umino. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. The final comments from Umino here, though, he said that he acknowledged, he's failed a lot of times, especially in the last year, and that he was going to use those frustrations to power him to a win in this tournament. And even though these two guys had an even record against one another's opponents, they first wrestled in 2019 in England when he was on excursion. And the Callum that he's wrestled and defeated in the past is a totally different person than he is now, and he's really looking forward to shutting him up. So there was a lot less respect in the main event for this preview here, and kind of set the stage for the following evening. So that brings us to the semifinals, night 26. This was the following evening, Friday, March 20th, from Aor Nagaoka. We had a reported attendance of 1906. In the opening match, House of Torture, Owens and Yujiro defeated Taguchi and Taisei Nakahara. 7 minutes, 20 seconds. Yujiro gets the Boston Crab on Nakahara. One thing that I've noticed about Nakahara, and I wanted to bring this up in the past, and I don't know if you're the best person to ask, Emily, but they mentioned that he's a southpaw, and when he throws strikes, he doesn't throw with, with the lead hand like he would. He uses the opposite hand, and I don't know that I can think of anybody that is offhand that I can think of that strikes opposite in professional wrestling, other than luchadors, but they all do that.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
maybe he's just trying to get in early to go to CMLL. Maybe he's like, if I do this now, they'll send me to Mexico.
I want, if anyone's listening, I want examples, if anybody can think of someone that's prominent that has always thrown as a southpaw, because I literally can't think of anybody that's done that, especially coming out of the Noge dojo, where I feel like they would usually they'd just fucking fix that and be like, no, you're gonna do it the way we want you to, So very strange. Second match of the night, Goto Revolutionary Army. We had Goto, Matsumoto, and Yoshihashi. They defeated Team 100 and Yasuda 10-26. Yoshihashi gets that jank-ass butterfly lock on Yasuda for the submission victory. Third match of the night, Desperado, Wato, and Yo defeat the House of Torture's Doki, Sho, and Kanemaru. 8 minutes and 35 seconds. So Yo hits the direct drive on Kanemaru for the win. The return of Desperado on the New Japan Cup tour. He hadn't been here for the rest of the cup at all. And junior title preview between Yo and Doki. We're going to talk a bit more about that. Fourth match of the night, United Empire's Akira, Henare, Lee, and JAY defeat the Unbound Companies Nagai, Drilla, Shingo, and Ishimori, 9:25. Once again, JAY hits the bite the dust on Nagai for the victory. So he's been on this like huge win streak where every night he's the one who's picking up victories, even though it's like always like Gedo or Yuki Nagai, but he's the guy that's pinning them. So that's interesting. And then, again, a preview for Ishimori versus Akira and JAY, and the Unbound Company UE feud kind of continues. Fifth match of the night, House of Tortures, Dick Togo, Fale, and Narita defeat Aaron Wolf, Hanma, and Yano. Narita hits the Hell's Guillotine on Hanma, 8:34 for the victory. And then the final preview of the evening, TMDK, Hartley Jackson, Fujita, Oiwa, and ZSJ defeat the Unbound Company team of Gedo, Oscar, Tsuji, and Yuto Ice, 12:24. Hartley hits the Jagged Edge on Gedo for the victory. Preview matches between ZSJ and Tsuji, that was a trend earlier in the tour. Now it's kind of resumed a little bit there, but looks like that's not going to probably lead to anything in the near future. But this kind of thing that's been heating up with TMDK and Knockout Brothers kind of resumes itself here. But that is going to lead into the final two semifinal matches of the tournament. And we started off with both of these highly praised. In 19 minutes, 27 seconds, Yuya Uemura defeats Oleg Boltin with the high cross pin. Yuya is now 2-0 all-time against Oleg Boltin. Emily, thoughts on this match?
I think from beginning bell to end bell, this might be my favorite match that we're going to talk about tonight. I say it like that because the finishing stretch of the next matches. We'll get on to that. This was great. This was really good. Yuya's such a beautiful blend of styles. I feel like he can work with anybody. And Bolton is just, I said this earlier, he's just a bear that just fights on instinct. And Yuya uses his brain so much instead. And commentary talked a lot about how the start of this year, Bolton has had a great year, 6 mans, successful defense, strong in America, becomes double champ, a best New Japan Cup run in his career, with significant less in-ring time to Yuya, which I think definitely played a factor in this match. And yeah, the earlier mentions of, Bolton losing to a wrestling move the last time led to a lot of sort of intrigue and grappling in the beginning of this match.
Yeah, once Charlton started, or maybe it was Walker, I forget who was on the commentary that evening. I think it was both of them for the last 2 nights, but I believe it was Chris. He started listing all the accolades that he had in February, and I was like, fuck, I think maybe me and Jeremy, we gave the wrestler of the month. And I think I even at the time was like, well, what about Bolton? He's like, I guess you could go that way. And it's like, no, we're going to go Sky Team. But now I'm looking back. I'm like, maybe we should have given it to Oleg. Kind of
Sky Team that won a fake eliminator compared to double champion Bolton Oleg.
Kind of disrespectful if you think about it. But no, yeah, I thought that this match really ruled. Oleg, it just was so banged up from a lot of the big battles that he's had. So he's had tape all over both of his arms and his shoulders and his neck. And, I don't know if that is kayfabe or a mixture of shoot, but it created obviously these big targets for a guy like Yuya. And as is the game plan, with Yuya, it's kind of the same as when you watch a Kushida match, Kushida's going to go for the arm. You watch a Yuya match, he's going to work the arm. That's just it's his bread and butter. And he works with so many arm drags and arm wrenches and stuff like that. And the fact that there was bandages on this guy to begin with, just, it adds insult to injury. But the big thing for Yuya is wanting to be able to bridge this guy with the deadbolt suplex, and the fact that he is so big, and how is he going to get the strength and leverage to get, a world-class wrestler like Oleg over his head. That was a tall task. And these guys did a lot of really great grappling early on, but it was Yuya having to resort to going after the arm to kind of even the odds. But the thing that he had to contend with the whole time is Oleg, like you said, being a bear and being able to power out of almost everything and just toss this guy around all night. And then also the strike game where, like, yeah, Yuya's proficient, but Oleg was kind of battering him all throughout the night.
For sure. And I will say, although the finish to Yuya and Drilla was, controversial, I think it aided this match a lot when Yuya started pulling out the small packages, because it made them, like, much more believable. It was like, okay, no, he could just get this off a small package.
Well, there probably is something to that. I always believe that he can win with a small package anyways, because up to this point, to me, Yuya's a little bit like wacky roll-up guy, and he can kind of, and we've already established in the past that he's done that to Oleg, in the G1 the year previous. So I believe, to your point, like, he's already shown his proficiency at being able to do that for sure. What I thought really surprised me here was not only did they have a great match, that wasn't surprising, but it's when they started to kick it into overdrive down the stretch, and both guys hitting a lot of their major bombs and signatures and finishers and super finishers that we've seen work all throughout the tour from both guys. And on numerous occasions, both guys were kicking out of what brought them to the dance and kind of showcasing their like will to win here, basically.
Yeah, there was one Bolton bomb where he, like, swung Yuya out the corner.
Oh, that was so sick.
Like it was a child. And then he just pulled him up off the floor, and it was an F5, and it was another kick out, and you had Bolton, like, having a temper tantrum, like stomping his feet, like, what is going on? And that finish of, like, the deadbolt struggle, someone said this, and I don't remember who it was, and I'm so sorry, but the way Yuya fights for the deadbolt and fights for the arm control is very similar to the way Okada would fight for a wrist. Which I like a lot. I appreciate stuff like that. The way he just kind of, like, tugs for it, and the fight is all surrounded by that. And then what was it? The Lion Shiner. That's what they're calling his standing high fly flow. Did you see that? That's what they're calling it.
Yeah, so I mean, I was just online. He's pinned people with both the standing version and the grounded version, and on NJPW 1972, they've just always referred to it as, like, the high cross. So I just thought that it's the same name regardless of the position he hits it in. But you're saying that if he hits it in a standing position, it's called the Lion Shiner now?
I don't know if it's also called the Lion Shiner, if it's on the ground. But I know that, at least in this match, they said, oh, we hit the Lion Shiner twice. Huh. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that's a new name, I'm pretty sure. People might disagree with me. I don't like his version of the frog splash. I don't think it's very good, honestly. I don't dislike Umino going to the top rope. I don't dislike him hitting some sort of like cross body of some sorts. I don't love the execution of this. To me, it looks a little bit sloppy. I feel like he needs to personally clean it up a little bit, or maybe not try to do the jackknife like frog part, because sometimes he's not hitting this thing as clean as he possibly can. This is just my own nitpicky thing. So right now, like when for instance, let me give you an example. Tanahashi, even on his worst day in this last year of his time, when he hits a high fly flow, it's the boom, boom, and he's hitting it so proficiently, and it's beautiful, and you know what he's hitting. Like when Rob Van Dam hits, like, his, 5-star frog splash, it's so pretty. The version that he's kind of hitting is similar to, like, what D'Lo Brown used to do, like the lowdown, and he just doesn't hit it
nearly as good as like D'Lo did. So I feel like if you're going, or even when AJ Styles used to do a frog splash and it was the same move, and he just doesn't do it clean like those guys. And I feel like he either needs to clean it up or maybe simplify it and hit something else, because I don't think it looks very good personally.
I imagine him doing it very like straight. Does that make sense? You know, when I watch him, when I'm imagining it in my head, he is very straight with it. He doesn't really expand his body.
Yeah, so
horizontally.
He's hitting it kind of straight, and he's throwing the legs out to the side the same way, like what I'm describing, like the lowdown. It's the timing of it. I feel like because he's got so much muscle, and maybe he's not the most, I mean, he's a graceful guy, but like he's not necessarily a high-flying aerialist. He just seems to have trouble like getting the jackknife like off before he hits them, and it's like very rushed. I personally don't think it looks that good. Rambo says, what if he does the head shake though?
Well, I mean, that changes everything.
Yeah. But even with that being said, one other really impressive portion of this match, other than that, the Bolton bomb, was when Oleg was looking for the avalanche kamikaze, and Yuya fought out of that and then ended up hitting a standing. And actually, this one was kind of nasty. He didn't pull it off as good as he possibly could have, but I still appreciated it. He hit a Frankensteiner from the top rope that kind of opened up the doors for his victory, and I thought that was pretty cool too, especially given the fact that they're like, 18 minutes in and how big those two guys are.
Yeah, I think it adds to the desperation, the way he almost like let go of him halfway through it. He just couldn't hang on, but it still worked.
I love stuff like that. For me, some people see that and they're like, oh, it's a botch, blah, blah, blah. And like, not everything has to be perfectly clean all the time. I know I complained about, I think his finish should be clean, but if there's a sense of struggle in a match, I think it can add for sure. But one other thing too is, as popular as Oleg is, Yuya was getting so many Yuya screams and chants, especially through the midway of this match, and it was like very clear that this crowd wanted him to win that match.
Yeah, for sure. Which I'd love to see. I feel like he didn't get that. Maybe like a year ago, he wouldn't have gotten that same reaction.
Well, with that being said, he does pick up the victory with the high cross, 1927, and moves on. He's 2-0 all time against Oleg Bolton, and he advances to the finals here. Death Triangle 720 asks, do you think Bolton has a chance of winning the world title? While his in-ring has improved so much, I feel like he has a character that is strong enough. I don't feel like he has a character that is strong enough for the top title.
I mean, I hope so. I feel like if Newman, this early on, at this young of an age, is allowed to challenge for the belt, I don't see why Bolton couldn't at least challenge for it. Maybe even have a short run. A little like Genesis to Dominion, Genesis to Don Taku kind of title run.
Yeah, I don't think that the question is whether he can challenge. I think it's a chance. The question is, do you see him getting strapped up as the champion?
Yeah, no, I think so. Just like a couple months at least.
If you were going to do that, like what's the, for you, like what's the timetable you imagine for a guy like Oleg to advance to the point where he can win that title? How would you like something like that to happen in your estimation?
Maybe like, that's a good question. Maybe like a year or two. If we go 2 years, I think it should be a significant run, like a longer one. But if we gave it like a year and a half, he could just hold it, from one big event to the next one. Kind of just for someone who's maybe a first-time champion, kind of like how we're talking about Suji now, how maybe Suji should lose it at the next event, but win it back at the next one. Maybe he can play that kind of role.
Yeah, I think for me, looking at the raw talent that is there with a guy like Oleg Bolton, right? I think that you have the raw data and material to potentially have someone of the ilk of like a Brock Lesnar or a Kurt Angle style wrestler. But because of the way that New Japan likes to book guys like this, and especially considering that there are so many other young Reiwa talents coming up at the same time, one thing I think that they run the risk of doing is turning him into this generation's Nakanishi. A guy that like comes in with all these like amateur accolades and, like super touted as a future guy, but then he's surrounded by some of the top talents of his day, and they don't get around to actually strapping him up because he's this bit. They put him into a muscular dude role, and they don't ever utilize him as like the top guy. Whereas like in the States, obviously he has the goods to like be put into that role. I don't know New Japan is going to do that with him. And then ultimately like he becomes Nakanishi, a guy that's like failed several times sort of thing. Yeah,
I feel like yours is probably more likely to happen, but we can have some hope that he can turn it around.
So the next match, this was the main event here. So we saw Callum Newman take on Shota Umino. They go past the 30-minute mark by 3 seconds. Going into this match, they were 2-2 all time since October 24th. This was the first match that they'd had since about 1 year and 5 months. And Callum Newman, to the shock of many, but not to others, is successful. He wins this match and goes, is successful with the Prince's Curse and eliminate Shota Umino. I know you've got some feelings about this match, Emily. What were your takeaways and your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think maybe the table spot happened, and then I went, oh, wait. I was like, maybe Shota can't come back from this. Like, he's bleeding from his nose, he's bleeding from his back now. His arm is dust. I was like, is it really actually possible to come back from this much? And it wasn't, but I think this was really good. This was really well done. I feel like the Callum from even just the first round of this New Japan Cup wouldn't have been able to have this kind of match. I think this cup has done wonders for him in terms of like rapid improvement. I will say though, I don't think Callum Newman's very good at submissions. I think he kind of needs to just leave them alone. It's twice now. He did like a clutch in the Goto match that just didn't look like it was doing anything. And then he had an arm bar in this one, and it was just like, oh. I was like, you just need to leave that. Like, we've got enough people on the roster that can do that really well. And when you have to come out afterwards and do the same thing, but much worse, I'm like, that's not making you look good. Just leave the submissions alone.
I couldn't recall the last time that I saw him even do any sort of like mat wrestling to any great degree. So I was actually a little surprised to see him go to the well there. And it, like we talked about, Umino had already had the arm attacked to such a great degree by Zach. For me, it made a little bit of sense why he was going to that well, kind of focusing on the arm a bit, because one of the things that I think Newman has done really well in his match structure is create game plans that expose the weaknesses of guys that they've suffered throughout the tournament, So that was one thing, but I don't disagree with you. I don't know that I felt like when he was controlling him on the ground that it was to any great degree, or that it was like super threatening to the, to create a submission situation or anything like that. And maybe there is some room for improvement, but I felt like it was at least admirable to see him like try and lock it up a little bit when I don't think I've ever seen him do that yet.
Yeah, I think he did great arm work with like the kicks. Like he was hitting a lot of kicks on Shota's arm, which I thought worked really, really well in this match. But then it was like near the end, he just had this arm bar in for ages, and I was like, oh, this just isn't working. Like I'm meant to feel a lot of tension, a lot of drama, like, oh my god, Shota could tap here, and I'm like, no, he wouldn't. This is not good.
Now, early on, Umino was using his size, kind of controlling this guy, putting him in a headlock, things like that. And one thing I noticed is how slow the pacing of a lot of this match is. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it kind of felt like where the previous match, those guys were like, we're getting it, we're going, it's kind of a sprint. It was pretty clear here that like Umino was banged up, but at the same time, so was Newman. Like Newman doesn't, he's not really taping up the body. He's not trying to telegraph any of his damage, but he's very stop and go because he's picking his spots because he probably didn't have the gas tank to go full throttle the whole time. Even though he had a shorter match length than a lot of other people, he got his ass handed to him in almost every match that he was in. Goto was kicking him a million times. He was getting tossed into the chairs by Oscar, and then same thing by Big Jag. So this was a guy who like was fighting a lot of monsters that were brutalizing him, and then he's having to try and like do this, basically overcome the physicality of Shota Umino. And Umino took him into deep waters. I mean, this guy was wrestling less than 15 minutes in almost every tournament match up to this point, and then Umino's taking him like deep into the match. And what I noticed with Callum is like, yeah, he set those tables up early. He took him to the outside so he could like get an upper hand. And then when he was on the inside, he would pick his spots when he would want to explode. He'd explode for like a short period with like a series of kicks and elbows and suplexes, but then he would stop. And it was like very measured, not that unlike how Jay White used to wrestle. He's almost right now reminding me of like a hybrid between like the pacing of a Jay White match with the athleticism of like Will Ospreay.
Yeah, I had that written in my notes.
Are you serious?
Final. Yeah, I said he's a counter wrestler like Jay White, and he's pacing it like White is, but he's also Ospreay.
Yeah. And
then he's got a bit of like a Devitt. Just a little bit of a Devitt to him as well.
Yeah, and you know what? That's something where like as this tournament progressed, I personally didn't see him going all the way. The main reason why, it wasn't because and I've actually thrown this out there quite a few times, is like I didn't predict Callum to go deep, but I always said he could. He's like a dark horse, and if he goes all the way, I think he could beat Tsuji. He's the only guy that I like could maybe see beating Tsuji in April. But my thing with it is that having him, go into the finals and beat a guy like Shota, for me, that signifies like we're giving him the real push. And I didn't think that they were going to do something like that until Ospreay comes back and they're ready to do the Ospreay feud. But it's becoming pretty clear now that they are gearing him up to be elevated before the Ospreay thing ever even happens.
Yeah, there's two ways you can go with the Ospreay feud. You can have Callum be really, really dominant beforehand, and then when Ospreay comes back, it's an immediate, well, I don't actually need you. Or you have him sort of fail at the last hurdle, build this resentment and this blame of Ospreay. Ospreay comes back, they try to do a thing, it still fails, and Callum is like, well, it's still your fault. Even all these earlier failings that you weren't here for, they're also your fault as well. And it seems like they're going with the first option of, no, Callum's like going to be one of our top guys for Ospreay to come back to.
Well, to steal a line from, Triple H, they're still, in one of the early innings. There's a lot of innings to this game.
It's a new era.
They're in a new era. So,
I can't wait for 2 weeks' time when it's another new era.
But yeah, I thought that this match was really fantastic. And then that portion where it's like Umino is on the inside, he started, and his nose started bleeding like almost immediately. So that really added a lot of drama to the match. But once they were inside from having recovered from the outside brawling and the tables being set up, you kind of forgot about the tables there for a while. And
I did. I totally forgot that they were there.
and Umino's focusing on, hitting these big power moves, and, he brutalized the neck there. Oh man. The draping DDT that he did to the outside on Newman was one of the best sells of a DDT I've ever seen. Newman, like, literally, he looks like he just lands, like he broke his neck, and then he just stays there in a headstand motion for at least like 18 seconds or maybe less, but still it felt like forever. So like, I thought he was doing an incredible job just kind of like dominating Newman, but he's looking for these opportunities to hit him with like dragon suplexes and Germans and stuff, and Newman is trying to counter his way out of that, and then suddenly he just explodes and hits this incredible sequence, and then picks this guy up and just power bombs him over the top rope through those tables. And I was like, oh shit, like this is for real. Like this is like, Masato Tanaka, like Mike Awesome type shit. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. And Shota, like, did you see the big cut on his arm the next day from it?
No.
Yeah, no. So he had a big cut, like all the way down to where his tape was.
Really?
Yeah. And that's because commentary said, oh, he's bleeding from his back.
Yeah.
From the tables, but it was actually from his arm. And it had just kind of fallen that way instead, and it looked nasty.
One thing that was interesting is, like, in a certain sense, you're right. Like, Newman was wrestling, like, counter wrestling, but he also was the aggressor. He also was making these people reactive to the things that he was doing. And so it was like, it's hard to describe, but it's like when they were trying to come back, he would make them chase him. And then he would create counter opportunities. But in the in-between times, he would find ways to just like kind of brutalize people, whether it was like he would find whatever weakness it was and go after them and fuck them up. And it's interesting how, like, in such a short period of time, this is a guy that, like, I've always been high on, but I didn't think had, like, necessarily the greatest in-ring psychology, storytelling. Like, it was like his matches, especially in the G1, were very formulaic, high-flying, point A to point B, and there wasn't a lot of substance to them. And then suddenly I'm like, he's wrestling like one of the most brilliant, like ring agents in the fucking company. The way he's putting these matches together, I'm not saying they're the best matches of the year. I don't think they're match of the year contenders personally. I know other people disagree, but in terms of how they convey the story and the character, I'm like, right now he seems to kind of be on another level than almost every other young guy in the company. And I don't know that I would have said that 2 months ago.
No, for sure. I feel like this cut, like I said earlier, the first round, Callum Newman could not have had this match. It was, the Goto and the Oscar and the Harley Jackson that really built him up for this. Especially the way you were talking about the brutality. Commentary mentioned how Callum Newman, whether he was lying or not, he said he hadn't watched any of Shota's cut matches.
Yeah.
But it was clear that Shota was the opposite, and he had studied and seen the matches. He avoided things at the beginning that Goto didn't avoid, just like the chop after the clean break, things like that, and just generally controlled a little bit more than Goto did in the beginning. So yeah, I think just like little things like that, adding little character beats into the actual story, it made it clear like Newman was falling for things that Umino had already tried in other cup matches because he hadn't seen it, whereas Shota was able to avoid the sort of well that Callum had built in the cup so far.
We have a comment here from Rambo and Slam Pig. Get him working with Taichi and watch the fireworks go off. And yeah, definitely. I mean, it's shortly becoming the thing where it's like when people used to ask me like, who do you want to see this person work with in New Japan? And the answer is always Ishii. It's sort of now becoming Taichi, where it's like, you bring in someone from the outside, who do you want them to work with? And it's like, well, Taichi. Now, we have a lot of questions here, and some of them are specifically for you because this is Shota Umino taking a big loss here. Rambo and Slam Pig says, am I huffing pure copium, or does it seem like Shota Umino has finally turned a corner in terms of how the audience is responding to him? Is it time for a Shota G1 win?
People have been so nice about him in the past 2 weeks, and I'm so not used to it. Like, everyone is welcome. I welcome everybody. But yeah, it's been so odd, like, hitting out a tweet, like, being like, wow, that was good, Shota, and everyone being like, yes, it was. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, but you know what that is? It's because he's been good.
Okay, yeah, but I think he's always been good.
Well, maybe
I can't tell the difference.
You're one of the early adopters, but like for me, I'm like when he's not good. But you know what? I mean, if we're being honest, this show's been pretty complimentary of Shota Umino for well over a year. It's not like this is new for us, but I think for some people it probably, is.
Yeah, I mean, I was a young lying adopter of him, so it's like I go way back. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. You're still all welcome, but you need to know that I've been here forever. I built this house.
Now, I will say this. We get a lot of questions about Umino and Uemura on this episode. I want to get this out of the way. This is my very early prediction, but I do think we're on the way to a Shota Umino G1 win this year. And I know for some people they're not going to like that because they saw Yuya in these finals. We're going to talk about that, but I do think it's going to be Umino's year going into 2027.
Do you see them being the finalists of the G1?
I don't know about
together?
that. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe not, though.
Okay. Interesting.
Rambo says he's always good in ring. The character stuff's been messy, but he is firing on all cylinders now. Shota stands unite. Careford13 asks, with how down United Empire were after Ospreay's departure, do you feel like they're back to the United Empire of old, or even better with the huge win from Newman in this New Japan Cup?
Did we answer this or a similar one?
We've gotten a lot of questions that are similar. And in fact,
okay.
I wish I would have placed all of them perfectly, in the same spot where I could have it all addressed. But, it's not always easy putting these rundowns together.
That's okay. You did a good job. Don't worry. It's a great job. It's great.
But yeah, I won't reiterate, but I still feel that this really does, these wins do strengthen and reestablish United Empire as a team, personally.
Yeah, it hasn't really trickled down to the rest of the United Empire yet. Like, I'm like, yes, Callum. I feel good about Callum. And then I look kind of like to his right and I'm like, oh God. I'm like, these are the guys that you're with? Like, okay, I'll try.
I think that's a little dismissive of Akira and JAY. They're like they're going after the tag titles, and Hanare's ripped to shreds.
Yeah, okay. Like, JAY, right, I have a problem with him where, like, how pigeons can, like, recognize faces?
No.
Okay.
No, I never
I'm
heard
having,
of that.
like, I don't know why I just brought that up, because I'm going to say that I have the opposite problem, where, like, my mental image of JAY in my head is completely different to what he actually looks like. So every time he comes out, I'm like, who is this? And then I'm like, oh, that's Jacob. I'm like, why doesn't he look anything like that in my head?
Well,
so I wonder if that's like, are other people like this? Are other people struggling?
Well, we used to call him, Jag, JAG, and that was before Big Jag, but that was, he was, to us, he was just a guy, and
yeah.
But I feel like lately he's endeared himself a bit more to me with some of the character changes and attitude. So we'll see. A question here for Emily specifically. Ethan Saber says, as a huge Shota fan, were you upset with Shota getting knocked out by Callum, or did you expect it? He says, I personally was a little disappointed that Shota and Bolton were both knocked out.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't really expecting it until maybe the table spot. And then I was like, oh, God. I was like, wait. I was like, how is he going to come back from all this? I think disappointed is an interesting word to use. I wasn't disappointed per se that he lost, because I always knew he wasn't going to win the whole thing. I was like, this is just not his time. The disappointment I felt is kind of more my own fault, because I had such tunnel vision for the finals. I was like, it's Yuya and Shota. Like, there was nothing else. Nothing else was, I wouldn't even consider it. I was like, no. Why would they do anything else other than that? Which I still don't really know which would have been the better call. Like, maybe after the G1 I can tell you that, like, okay, this was the right way to go for the New Japan Cup.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was weirdly disappointed, but I blame myself for that.
Yeah, one thing I noticed here is during the last few weeks of the episode, we were talking about how me and other guests weren't necessarily super high on the Excalibur being used to defeat opponents, and then he started defeating people with the Princess Curse. And I don't even quite remember exactly when he specifically debuted that, because I remember when he first broke in, the Oz Cutter was the finish that he was using. So, it is good that he sort of has adopted something beyond just the Excalibur. He's got that Princess Curse. I guess he probably has been using it for a while, and he started using that to a greater effect down the tail stretch of the tournament here. But yeah, it was definitely, I think for a lot of people, it was surprising to kind of see him go through it. I think it makes sense. We'll talk about that more here in a moment. But last question, Ginger Ninja 666 says, we have this conversation every few months, but given Shota's performance in this tournament, do you think Shota has taken a definitive step towards putting the pieces together? Or do you think his consistency issues will continue to haunt him?
It's so weird. I don't know. I feel like it's not consistency issues anymore, and it's more just reputation.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just like people are like, oh, is he still having consistency problems? Which I will say, not to sound like such a Shota defender, right? But those consistency issues started not last year's G1, the G1 before that. That's kind of where everybody started to be like, okay, what the hell is going on with him? Like, what is wrong with him? And I feel like it's important to remember that he probably shouldn't have even been in that G1. He took like a couple weeks off before it for a back injury. And the idea was like, he's not going to be in the G1 because his back injury is rough. A back injury. A back injury. And then he ended up being in it, and that it was a rough G1. Like, even I can admit that was not a good round robin for him. But I think you can blame that on the back injury. And then for him to get kind of just shifted into the Wrestle Kingdom main event immediately after that G1 was probably not best for him. Well, obviously not best for him. It's been proven.
Well, I think that there's when we talk about the consistency issues of Umino, I would actually argue that they started day one from his return from Excursion personally. And in fact, I would say they actually predate that. When he was on Excursion, there was already issues of consistency when it came to commitment, because there were times during that Excursion where he, when he first came out, he looked like $1 million, and then he started letting himself go. And, some of this is pandemic related, but it's like he got into really bad shape. He wasn't having good matches. And people were like, what the fuck's going on with Umino? And then towards the tail end, he started getting back to prime, look. And when he first returned, everyone was so stoked. But I remember matches with, like Naito and a couple others where it was like he would have a great match and then he would have a really underperforming match, and it was up and down quite a bit for a while there. But there is a big difference between when we talk about his consistency, there's the consistency of, are we going to get a good or great performance out of this guy? And for me, I think for at least a year, that's pretty much gone by the wayside. You don't have to worry about the output. But people conflate that with the other portion of that, which is, will he be received well by the crowd, or will he succeed from a kayfabe booking perspective? And these are all different things, but they get conflated as one. And because his reputation has become he can't win the big one and he's not always dependable, they just kind of mash all these things up and they're like, oh, he's a disappointment. And maybe there's some truth to that, but the reality is when it comes to the in-ring portion of things, him being inconsistent, that's been gone. I think the last time I really felt truly disappointed by him was the Zack match in the Tokyo Dome. And I think since then, yeah, maybe those Okan matches weren't so great, but I don't even know that I blame him for that either. You know what I mean?
No, that's not his fault. I'm just like, whatever. Don't even worry about that.
But I think since that Zack match, and other people are higher on it. Not everybody hates it. I personally hate that match, but a lot of people really do like it. But I think it's okay. I think it's overhated, to be honest. Well, you know what? It is okay, but a 43-minute okay match to me is that's the issue.
But then when you main event the Dome, it's like, you've got to go like 40 minutes. And then it's like, oh, we're not really built to go 40 minutes, but we'll try. And they did. They tried.
But I think that they have an opportunity in front of them to tell this story about these failures continuing to compile until they do basically result in him putting everything together in kayfabe and winning the G1 and going to the Dome. And I think it is going to be him and Tsuji personally.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. He has won nothing. Like, in kayfabe. There's nothing. All he has is that Wrestle Kingdom main event to his name and a New Japan Cup final. He won those Battle Royals like 2 years in a row.
I don't know what you're talking about. What Battle Royals?
I don't remember either. I don't even remember. There's like some sort of Battle Royal near the start of the year, and he's the only one to ever win it.
Those dumb
That's
Battle
it.
Royals.
That's all he's got. He's a 2-time winner of the Battle Royal.
Oh, man. So we move on to the final night here. New Japan Cup 26 finals, night 12 of this tour from the same building, but they did a much better attendance, 3,007. This was Saturday evening, the 21st. We were supposed to open up the evening with Young Lion action, Masatori Yasuda taking on Taisei Nakahara. But before the show, there was an announcement. Satoshi Kojima would be missing the Cup final due to injury, taking some time off. So there were card changes made to the six-man tag that Team 100 was going to be involved in. And that basically necessitated them to cancel this match, and Nakahara would not work on this evening. One development that took place here, and I don't know if you noticed this, Emily, they have changed the online Twitter graphic for announcements of injuries and people being out. For a while in the States, it's always been the black and white lion mark. That's like the negative connotation. We all know something bad has happened, but apparently on the Japanese side of their Twitter, they still were just using the regular lion mark, but they were doing the same thing. Anytime something bad would happen, and they started getting complaints from the fans that this became too like concerning and like jarring. So they changed the entire like graphic and got rid of the line mark. And now it says like there's a silver graphic with a small line mark, and it says New Japan announcement. And this kind of like informs them like, okay, there's going to be an announcement. It's probably something bad. And now we're getting that. So they've gotten rid of the like black and white line marks. So moving forward, it's all going to be kind of uniform.
That's boring though. It doesn't look as fun.
It was never fun. Getting the black and white was not fun. No, but
like, this isn't like memeable. It's just like, it just says announcement. I'm like, oh, okay. It doesn't get me as like, ooh, like intrigued, like, ooh, what happened?
Hell no. I hate it. Anytime I saw that black and white lion mark, my stomach would fucking drop.
But you knew.
I didn't
give
know.
you a feeling. No, but like you saw the black and white and you knew, right, okay, something's happening. I have to pay attention.
But it was always bad.
Really, yeah, but does that really like announcement? Does that really scream at you?
I don't want it to scream at me. I want it to eat.
But it should. It should demand your attention.
I want
like it's bad news.
I want it to be tranquil and ease me into whatever terrible thing I'm about to learn about. You want to go through like a fucking haunted house where someone jumps out in front of you and it's like, boo.
Yeah, I want to be like, oh god, like I want to be terrified before I hit that, like before I actually hit the tweet to be like, oh my god, what's happened? Like,
I live in America.
Please.
I already have too much of that shit going on in my day.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Actually, I changed my mind.
So we open up the evening. There was an announcement made that Takeshita would be returning to the company and working the opening match in a World TV Championship Open Challenge. Now, going into the match, only a couple names on the tour that hadn't been announced for the show already. That was the
big three. The
big three. So you had Yujiro Takahashi, Chase Owens, and then the Booker Ghetto, who was also free on the evening. But it could have hypothetically been, it's a surprise. We don't know who it's going to be. So maybe it could have been someone working double duty on the tour. I mean, I would have loved for it to be like El Desperado, who just showed up the night prior, or an outsider, or
could have been ELP.
ELP
again.
returning. Yeah, well, maybe not that, but somebody. No,
I would have loved that. It should have been. That would have been so funny.
No
Just
shade.
ELP again.
No shade on ELP. It's just it doesn't narratively make sense. We want this dude to lay down and take another L.
It's an open challenge. Not just come out again.
No. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is they kind of gave it away because they were both talking about it so much backstage in the lead up. But it does end up being Yujiro and Chase Owens coming out simultaneously, but they are unsure which of the two of them are going to challenge for the title against Takeshita. Yujiro does end up winning a rock, paper, scissors battle to earn the title shot and was the one to face off against Takeshita instead of Chase Owens. And, short-lived match. These TV title matches, 15-minute time limit. This did not go near the time limit. Takeshita was able to defeat Owens 8 minutes and 10 seconds with the Raging Fire for the pinfall victory. And I got to say, Emily, and I'm not trying to just go with the flow and just say the same shit everybody else has been saying, but I genuinely thought that this match was better than I thought it was going to be. And it kind of does speak to Yujiro. Now, I don't want to overstate it. I don't want to be like, you got to go out of your way and see this because work rate Yujiro is a thing. No, that's not what I'm saying, but it wasn't, comparatively speaking to everything else that's going on with House of Torture, this was far from the most offensive thing that you could be seeing right now, which was surprising.
Low-key good.
Yeah, it was kind of low-key good. I think I would definitely go Gentleman's 3. If someone was I went 3 1/4, wouldn't be that shocked.
Yeah, it was everyone just looked like they were having a lot of fun. It was a bearable House of Torture match. There was a lot of cheating and interference, but Takeshi's just so big that it didn't really affect him that much. There was a moment where he got whipped into the barricade and he just immediately shot back with a lariat. Yeah, he just no-sold it immediately. It just came shooting back out.
That's like Lex Luger Stingism from 1992,
He almost didn't make it in for the 20 count. They were halfway through saying 20 before he actually managed to get back in there.
Oh, speaking of near countouts, we didn't even mention the fact that Shota almost got counted out from that table spot.
He was close. He was shuffling those tables out the way, no, I gotta go.
Oh man, but so Takeshita does get the victory here. Fortunately, it doesn't appear as though we're leading into another match in the series where now Chase is getting the shot. Instead, Takeshita does get on the mic and cuts a promo and basically says that he's got some unfinished business that he wants to settle from the year prior. And he challenges Shota Umino, who beat him in the G1 Climax in 2025, and that he hasn't forgotten about it, and he wants him to be the next challenger for his title.
It's quite exciting, especially with the 15-minute time limit. That's quite interesting. It
got a big reaction from the audience and was pretty exciting. So that was the first bit of big news here on the show. The second match of the evening, we had Taichi, Desperado, and Masatori Yasuda. This was the match that was reworked due to Kojima's accidents or injury. They defeated the team of Goto Revolutionary Army, Goto, Yoshihashi, and Matsumoto in 8:57. Despi hits the Pinche Loco for the win over Matsumoto. This was pretty notable because it was the first time that Desperado and Taichi have teamed together since November 28th, 2022. So 3 years and 4 months since the dissolution of Suzuki-gun, basically.
Yeah, and I feel I don't know if you agree, but I feel Despi didn't really look out of place with the heavyweights. There was a moment,
he never does. No. He is a heavyweight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was in there with Yoshihashi, and I was like, you guys are, the same height.
Mm-hmm.
And, almost the same size.
Yeah, they don't want to admit it, but he is.
Yeah, because I was always he's just always a junior in my mind. But when you actually put him beside heavyweights, you're like, oh, hold on.
Yeah.
You're like, what is going on here?
I felt that way when he wrestled Jon Moxley. When they had those deathmatch series, I was like, oh, this guy's a heavyweight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a bit and I talked about, maybe going for the Never Six-Mans, perhaps with Ishii instead of the Young Lion, which is kind of a shame. I feel like they were being mean to Matsumoto there.
Well, he's a weak link. Like, they would definitely lose. So the fourth match of the night here, we had the House of Torture team Doki, Sho, Kanemaru. They defeated the team of Yo, Wato, and Taguchi. Doki hits the roll-up victory at 8:26 over Taguchi after some questionable action with a wrench and the backside of Taguchi that maybe I didn't need. But a preview match for the upcoming Yo Doki Junior title match. Not much to add there.
The evil gimmick is great. I can't lie, that's popping me.
The evil gimmick from Yo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
just constantly spamming the everything is evil. It's like quite funny.
I do think that what he's doing there is effective, and even though it's obviously never going to result in like evil returning or anything like that, I think it's going to get really big reactions when they wrestle. I assume it's in Cork and Hall. I don't know. We'll have to see. But that upcoming April 2nd show that they have where they're main eventing, that's going to be like one of. I just assume Yo's probably coming out in like full King of Darkness regalia.
He has to be. I mean, he was doing the Rainmaker gimmick for the Best of Super Junior finals last year, and that worked. And I'm like, you can just do this here.
I want him to come out with the fucking scythe and the fingers with the lasers, and I want him to do lasers.
Yes. And I want like black smoke everywhere, so you can barely see him. It's just the fingers.
So we move on to the fourth match of the night. United Empire team of Great Okan and Hinare. They pick up a victory over Shota Umino and Tomoaki Hanma, 10:46. Umino just coming off that loss. This kind of established his next steps and kind of rebounding. Takeshita was shown joining Japanese commentary for this match, so kind of getting a lay of the land when it comes to Umino. But ultimately, Hinare gets the first of several submission victories on the show. He hits the Ultima, which is basically a souped-up version of the full Nelson on Hanma to get the submission victory here. The fifth match of the night, the United Empire team, Jake Lee, Francesco Akira, and Jacob Austin Young, they defeat the Unbound Companies, Shingo, Drilla, and Taiji Ishimori in 8:42. Another preview match for the junior tag team titles. And something that was really surprising here is Francesco Akira getting the grounded tarantula submission victory over Taiji Ishimori. So he made the champion tap out here. And it's, you see a lot of these preview matches, but it's rare when you see the champions or the main guys involved taking pinfall losses as opposed to, like a Lion or someone that's less involved in a feud here. But you kind of look at who's involved in this match, and Jacob Austin Young is like the least tenured of anybody that's involved, but he's the one who's been on this role, picking up all the victories for United Empire, trying to kind of establish him as like credible going into that title match. And Ishimori, I can't recall the last time I saw him tap out to anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I would never know. I'm sorry.
Well, that kind of continues the trend of United Empire and Unbound Company and their ongoing feud. The next preview match of the evening, we had the strong openweight champion Oleg Boltin, Aaron Wolf, and Toru Yano. They defeated the House of Tortures, Narita, Fale, and Dick Togo in 7:14. Wolf gets the reversed or inverse triangle choke on Dick Togo for another submission victory on the show. And, Oleg had beat Narita in the New Japan Cup. Narita's the current reigning Never champion, so you've got the strong openweight and the Never openweight champions sort of involved here. Kind of continues the Wolf versus House of Torture feud, but this seems to be leading, at least for now. It probably is going to lead to a Never title match, but this is leading definitely for now into a Never six-man openweight tag team title match to kind of probably eventually lead to the singles title match between these guys.
Yeah. They went 6-man first, but it's not this 6-man team, is it? It's Narita.
I don't.
Owens?
Yeah, it's Narita, Owens, and somebody else. I actually don't know that I put it on the run sheet. I think I saw it and then kind of forgot about it, but
it's not really important, is it? Though?
No, it's not. I'm trying to remember who's champions with Oleg and Yano. I can't even recall really.
I thought it was Oleg and Bishamon.
Oh, it is. That's right.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, they've kind of taken a back seat during this New Japan Cup, so I'm like, who are even the fucking champions? I don't remember.
Yeah, who knows?
But you know how it goes. House of Torture are probably going to take those titles off them like they always do, because we live, time is a flat circle and it just goes round and round. With that being said, though, I do want to say, I really hope that they unify these openweight titles. I don't think they will, but I would love for them to do that.
Won't.
No,
They won't.
Careford13 says time of writing is during the semifinal night. And I wanted to ask, if Aaron Wolf can have a Wolf t-shirt and the Wolf name and the Wolf howl, how come he doesn't do the Wolf howl during his matches?
I don't know if this is controversial. I hate animal noises in wrestling. Like, please don't start doing the wolf howl. I really will not like it. It just gives me the ick. And I don't want to do it in the crowd. I hate it.
Okay, so I'm trying to even think of any notable animal noises that have ever existed. The only thing that comes to my mind is Sting howling. Is this something?
Yeah.
Is this something you hate?
I don't mind Sting because it's like, he's a legend. Like, I'll let him off. Like, it's fine. But Brody King does the dog bark on AEW, and I'm like, I hate that. I'm like, stop. It's not fun. It's not cool. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be pressured into feeling like I have to do it. So it's just icky.
So the War Dogs, doing the oof and all that, that's not for you.
Yeah, no, it's so bad. I think it's just so corny.
I was trying to remember. I was like, what animal noises are you talking about? When does that even happen?
Do you often hear animal noises when you're wrestling? Is
there sommone mooing? Is there someone meowing, doing rooster calls? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Just general, mammal-ish noises are not for me.
I don't even know any noises that any animal that's not a mammal makes off the top of my head. Like, what the fuck does a reptile or a
Well, birds, they chirp.
Okay.
Like seagulls, they're quite loud.
Wait, are birds? I'm so bad at this shit. Are birds not mammals?
Oh no, I don't know. Another thing we have to Google.
All right, so while you do that, we'll move on.
No, they're not.
Okay, what are they classified as?
Avius?
Aviarian, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So the TMDK team of Zack Sabre Jr., Oiwa, Jackson, and Fujita, they pick up a victory over Unbound Company, who've just been getting their asses beat the entire tour, by the way. Yota Tsuji, Yuto Ice, Oscar, and Daiki Nagai, they lose in 8:44. Fujita gets the modified Clarky Cat on Daiki Nagai for this is the fourth on the evening, submission victory in a row. And, Zack and Oiwa, their tag team title pursuits are kind of continued here. Before the match even started, we got a ton of heat between Yuto Ice and Ryohei Oiwa, so that's kind of escalating. But after the match is over, Yuto Ice gets on the mic and he basically says that he wants Oiwa to know that he hates him and challenges him to a match. And, essentially we're lucky that Charlton was even here to give us the instant translation. I guess we would have got the gist of it, but basically Oiwa says that he wants a tag title shot for himself and Sabre before the singles match between him and Oiwa, or him and Yuto Ice agrees. So it looks like we're probably going to get a singles match between them leading into a title match, which we'll talk a little bit further about. But that dude named Menace. Oh, before I ask that question, so did you have any thoughts on the setup here, and how are you feeling about TMDK getting another crack at these belts?
Well, first of all, I like that you shut off the mic before you gave it to Oiwa, so that when Oiwa went to shouting it, nobody could hear him. just like a little rib like that. Like, yeah, I'll give you the mic. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I think it's good that TMDK are having another shot at it. I could see them winning it, to be honest. I think just the differences between the Knockout Brothers and between Oyo and Zack. You were saying hey, we hate each other, but let's use that to fight and make money. because that's what this is about. It's about making money. And Oya was like, I don't want to fight you. I want to wrestle you. You know, I hate you too, but I have no interest in fighting you. I just want to beat you on the mat, and I want to take your belts from you. Something so simple like that. And I especially like the way that Oya took charge in this segment, and Zach just let him.
Yeah.
Zach didn't get involved at all. He kind of just stayed on the side, didn't say anything, just let him, just gladly sort of let him put the challenge out.
Yeah, I think we're getting to that point where this title run has been so successful and so lengthy that at any given time they could believably, incredibly drop the titles and it would be okay. At the same time, any major victory that they get just continues to add to the length and prestige of the run. And there is a part of me that wonders, like, are they going to drop the title soon, or are they really in this for the long haul? And we're going to see, like, potentially them threaten to, like, have one of the longest established reigns right out the gate. Are they going to, you know, go after, like, bad intentions, you know, records, that sort of thing. So that remains to be seen. But I loved the first match between these teams, and I can't wait to see them do it again. So it's going to be really good. We did get a kind of off-topic question. That dude named Menace, he says, do you think we'll eventually get the Saito brothers versus Knockout brothers eventually?
I've not really seen anything from the Saito brothers, but, you know, I've seen pictures and clips and things, so I would like to. It looks like they would be a good fight, like a good contrast, just visually.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is there's a reason that this is Keeping It Strong style, not Keeping It King's Road. I don't know, you know, I can't say that I'm an expert on the Saito brothers. I've heard about their reputation. I've seen a bit of them. I got to tell you, I think it's highly unlikely these teams work together. You never know. Things change all the time, but right now, All Japan, for a variety of reasons, others who are more knowledgeable about the pro landscape could probably speak better to this, but my understanding is, like, they're kind of on an island unto themselves. Like, nobody is really working with All Japan, and there's apparently, like, managerial and political reasons for that. So unless that gets cleared up, I don't see them working against one another, but you never know. Could be one of those, like, cross-promotional matches, but I also think the politics behind a match like that would be a nightmare. Like, you know what I mean? Unless like Saito is willing to do the job, which I don't think they are, because they're kind of they're not just a big tag team for that company, but they both, or at least one of them, also, like, headlines and challenges for the world title pretty regularly because they've got such a limited roster. So it's like, it would be very difficult to see them doing a clean job to KOB at this point, basically.
You'd have to do, like, 2 matches. You'd have to do, like, one in one promotion, one in the other, and you can have your win back, and you can be 1-1, and then that's it.
It would take a lot of convincing. I don't think I don't think that they would do that. I don't, because of where All Japan is right now, they're not going to do that. They're going to be like, we'll beat you if you want.
Yeah. If you want to come and lose, that's fine.
If you want to come lose and make some money, yeah.
Got no problem to anybody that wants to put their shoulder on the mat. That's fine.
So, with that being said, that leads us to the main event of the New Japan Cup Finals here. So, you know, leading into this match, and we'll just kind of go real quick through their path. So, both guys, neither one got a bye in this tournament. They both started in the first round. Yuya defeated Great Okan in 22-06. In the second round, he defeated Drilla Maloney 22-28. Third quarterfinals, he defeated Shingo in 26-08. And then in the semis, defeated that was his shortest match, Oleg Boltin, 19-27. So he had a full hour and a half and change of in-ring time during that tournament, 22 minutes plus match average throughout the tournament, the most in-ring time of anybody throughout the tour. Any just general quick broad thoughts about his path through Okan, Drilla, Shingo, and Oleg?
It was definitely a tough path. There's definitely a lot of people that were sort of bigger and stronger than him, but he was smarter, and that's kind of how he got through it.
Yeah, I think the two most impressive victories, and actually the one that means the most, is the Shingo victory, just because of how dominant Shingo had been previously. the Drilla match, they're kind of on even footing. Maybe Yuya's like a step. I think both with Oleg and Drilla, he's like booked similarly, but he's still kind of ahead of them, so it's not too surprising that he defeated them. The Okan one, I think at this point he's kind of surpassed Okan. So
yeah.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you got Callum. He went through Oscar in his first round, 11-15. Hartley Jackson in the second round, 14-40. Goto in the quarterfinals, 12-43. And then by far the longest match of his entire tournament. And this was actually a longer match than any match that Yuya had been in the tournament, which was the Shota Umino match, 30 minutes and 3 seconds. So that brings his entire in-ring time to 1 hour, 8 minutes and 41 seconds, 17-minute match average. But if you take away the Umino match, then he was literally in the ring like 48 minutes between 3 matches total. That brings his average down significantly. So there's a big difference between the wear and tear and the amount of action that these two guys had through their paths. Any general thoughts about Callum and the path that he took?
Yeah, his was definitely, he had a lot of bigger guys as well in Oscar and Hartley. But instead of being, I suppose he was smarter, but in a different way of like using Zane J and using more underhanded tactics to get here.
Yeah, I would agree. Obviously the Goto and Umino, both of those matches, huge victories for him and a huge like launching pad. This basically brought us to a point where like in those final 4, all like Reiwa young generation guys, no former champions. We were guaranteed a first time ever New Japan Cup final, and the winner was guaranteed to be a first time cup winner. Going into this match, they were 1-0. Yuya had already defeated Newman in the past, and Newman was able to take Yuya Uemura to the limit, and in 25 minutes and 52 seconds, Callum Newman defeated Yuya Uemura to become the youngest ever winner of the New Japan Cup, tying their record to 1-1 all time, and he surpasses Kazuchika Okada's record as the youngest winner of the New Japan Cup. He will go on to face Yota Tsuji for the title in the main event of Sakura Genesis on April 4th. And if he wins that match, he is going to become the youngest ever IWGP heavyweight champion, surpassing the record that was set many years ago by Shinsuke Nakamura. So kind of a lot to unpack there. We have a lot of questions about this match, but before we get into any of that, what were your thoughts and takeaways, and how are you dealing with the heartbreak of watching, both of your guys, kind of get laid out by this dude?
Yeah, I know. So my heart was broken in that sense. And then also, I'm only a year younger than Callum Newman. So it's kind of disgusting to, like, see him achieve something career-wise so monumental and be like, in 365 days, I'm not going to be doing anything like that in my career. I'm like, that's...
You are selling yourself
disgusting.
Way too short.
I don't think I'm going to... I mean, I don't know what the equal comparison would be of a New Japan Cup win at 23.
I don't think you're going to be winning the Cinderella Cup tournament. No, that's true.
I hope not. I don't want to be in there.
But, you can't judge your, path and accomplishments to, to Callum Newman winning the New Japan Cup. You just...
I will, though. I will. And it will upset me still. I'll still look at him and go, maybe that's some of my resentment. Not over Callum, just I blame that on the rest of the United Empire somehow. Just feel like he's too young.
No, we have had some comments from Rambo, and I've been overlooking them. So at 6:36, he says Tag Team Genius Shota Umino can go in the ring, even with the preview tag before the disastrous Dome main event. He also says he mentions the match between I'm assuming this is referring to Shota versus Takeshita. He says that match is going to rock, but Shota's going to be holding yet another L because Gato loves to make him suffer. And then some words of encouragement for you. You are the KISS social media manager. Cal Newman cannot say that, and that's a fact.
That's true. That's true. That's much more important than this, actually. So sorry, Callum. You should be jealous of me.
I mean, if he reached out to us, would we entertain the conversation? Sure, but does that mean we would definitely? No, we probably wouldn't go that way. I mean, at best, we might delegate some tasks to him under your supervision and be like, okay, Emily, tell Callum what you would like for him to be doing and see how it goes from there. Yeah.
Yeah, he has to get reading some interviews so that we can take some screenshots. That's really what I need him to do.
So, with that being said, though, I honestly felt like this match, more so than even the Shota match. Like, I saw a lot of people talk about the Shota match and the pacing and the style, and they kind of said like that to them was like the big match style of New Japan. And to a certain degree, I'd probably agree with that, but there is a particular big match formula, and I felt like that match didn't necessarily fit that mold. It was kind of more, how do I describe it? It had its own unique pacing and its own unique structure that doesn't necessarily follow what I call like the Tanahashi template, like what he popularized and what Okada carried over and what has become like the trope of how New Japan matches are wrestled. This match was much closer in style and structure and pacing to what a traditional classic New Japan like tournament finals or main event of a major closing, tour or even title match, how that stuff is structured. And I think it was the first time that we've really gotten an opportunity to see Yuya and Callum. Not to say, Yuya's had big matches. He's had big G1 matches, but this was the first time to me that I felt like they really gave them like the ball and said, okay, go out there and deliver what you would deliver in an IWGP style match. Go ahead and do that on your own. And I felt like they did that, and I felt like they knocked it out of the park, honestly.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the Shota Callum match, I think maybe the end of it, the very like last couple minutes, that was perhaps your more classical New Japan. Mm-hmm. Which is maybe why a lot of people are like, it just kind of affected their view of the whole match. They're like, oh, the whole thing was like that. It's like, no, it was maybe just the last couple minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas this was, very much more traditional. I think Callum's just, his pacing especially has just gotten so much better just over this tour. I keep saying it, like round one, Callum Newman could not have had this match. Four match later he could.
One thing that's different, and I think that this is a good way for me to explain it, is like some people probably listening, because I know that there are a lot of fans of Jay White, and then there are a lot of people that, as good as he was, and they recognize his skill and talent, they don't love his style of work. And so when I compare what Callum's doing to that, they might hear that and think it's a negative and a turnoff, but it's not quite the same thing. I think where there's a difference is that oftentimes with Jay was known for like stalling the match to a grind to get heat and going out of the ring and powdering. And Callum's done a little bit of that, but that's not really the MO. What the big difference between this match and the Shota Umino match is that was that both of these guys, number one, being cautious, not wanting to give up any sort of advantage to the other person, so treating them like they knew what kind of threat was in front of them. But number two, a war of attrition. Like, the moments where things were slowed down was because they were hitting each other with such huge bombs that they were selling the damage for extensive periods and then re-engaging. And so it was like this kind of exhaustive battle where both guys were like so spent from what they've gone through in the tournament. This match was the opposite of that. It was both of them being like, okay, all the chips are on the table. I'm all in. I need to showcase my fighting spirit. And I don't have the luxury to, if you give me your best shot for me to sell it, I need to no sell that shit and show that I've got, the Tamashi blah, 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 which is very much in line with what you expect from like an IWGP match. And that was kind of the big difference I noticed here.
Yeah, I noticed again the sort of previous cup matches coming into play whereas Shota was able to avoid Callum's early tactics. It was this match where Yuya avoided his later tactics. Yuya overcame the chair, which Callum had used to beat Hartley. He overcame the low blow, which he had used to beat Goto. He overcame the multiple princess curse, which beat Shota the night before. But at the same time, Yuya tries to beat Newman the same way he beat Bolton with the 2 lion shiners. And Callum kind of does that other Jay White-ism he has of being quite a counter wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine to turn that into a super kick instead. And I'm glad he did establish a new finisher. I feel like you guys have been saying that the past couple of weeks. Like, okay, he needs something new. Especially the first Excalibur that he hit in this match. I went, ooh. I was like, yeah, that's not great. Like, the second one that he hit was much better, but his first Excalibur, I was like, yeah, that can't be your thing anymore.
Yeah, he definitely, they try to use some of the underhanded stuff. There was a moment where he went for the Excalibur and he tried to do it on the chair where the camera hadn't shown that the chair was even slid into the ring, and even commentary was not aware that it was there. And then it's like, oh wait, where the fuck did that come from? It's like, oh, Jay threw that in there. And Uemura was able to avoid that, which was, really good. But yeah, he hit multiple Excaliburs. The second one was, off the back of a giant lariat, and then he hits the Excalibur, and then he hits the Princess Curse, and you're like, oh my God, he got this dude out of here, but he didn't, and Uemura hit him with, the deadbolt. He didn't get the bridge on it, but he hit him with the deadbolt. He hit the, what did you call it? The lion's shine.
Yeah, the lion shiner.
Lion shiner.
Maybe we've got to work on that.
They also called it the high cross when he landed it on the ground. So, and he hit some of his best moves, and Callum was able to kick out. There's a couple times where I was biting on the finishes, and that's something where that is a very easy to digest sort of match structure where it builds, and then suddenly it's like the WrestleMania formula where these guys are hitting their finishes and they're kicking out of the finish, and it's very epic and the crowd is reactive. And when you do it in the right place in a tournament final like this, it can be very effective. And so both guys are showcasing their toughness. And, there was the moment where Callum threw him into the ref and got the low blow. And you would have thought in that moment that would have, potentially been the moment where he cheats and is able to, get the upper hand and win. But even that, it did establish the fact that he's a heel, but it was kind of, it was a it wasn't the deciding factor as to what picked up the victory here. It really was both of these guys overcoming each other with toughness, and then him after several of his, what does he call it? The Prince Devitt. It used to be the Bloody Sunday. It's called the Prince's Curse.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, several of those didn't work. So then he unleashes this new finish that he has on NJPW1972.com. They are calling that finish the Make Way, which is the title of his theme song. And essentially it's like it's an F5 setup. So he spins them out like an F5, but then he hooks them in for like similar to like a rock bottom. It's actually very close to the Goto Revolution, or not the Goto Revolution, but the whatever the other one he has, the GTW.
Oh yes, like the spinny one.
The one where he brings them up and then spins them out and drops them on there. Yeah, so he's basically doing an F5 into a GTW. That's what the Make Way is, and it's pretty impressive. When he hit that, I was like, oh my God, he's got a new finish. Yeah. And he beat this guy.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's a really good finish.
And it's hard to deny how good he looked in the tournament and how giving the guys that he faced were to get him to that point, and how well structured. Honestly, I think that this, in terms of making a star and getting a guy to where he needs to be in a short period of time. The last time they were this successful in a New Japan Cup tournament was like Zach in 2018. It's been a while.
Yeah, for sure. I think It's certainly an interesting choice to have Callum win, because he almost went maybe under the radar for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people maybe didn't even think like, oh yeah, maybe he'll make it semis, third round-ish. You know, he had some tough people. Like he had Goto, like we said, and then he had Shota, who was like a
favorite.
Favorite, yeah. And then having Yuya here again, who's another favorite. It wasn't like an easy, like kayfabe standing wise, it wasn't easy for him to get to even this point, and never mind win it. So yeah.
I think for me too is like Callum has always been sort of in this generation, but he's been a guy that even though he's wrestled longer than a lot of the other Reiwa guys, he started when he was like a teenager. When he got to the company just like a couple years ago, he still had such a gap in terms of what he needed to learn that I've never seen him personally on the level until just literally towards the end of last year. I never saw him as being on the level as the other guys in this generation. I thought he had more aptitude because of his physical gifts and his age and where he was, but I wasn't necessarily clamoring for him to like go far in a G1 or wrestle main events with the rest of these guys. And now he's at a point where he's had 2 classics with 2 of the top like Hantai leaders, the guys that there's this kind of issue between, which is like, it is crazy. I think a lot of us thought like, not just because of the fact that they're both Hantai leaders, but they were in this tag team together. It seemed like they were destined for this like eventual, reconvergence. And then he just kind of upended it. But now he's like maybe at the top of the class, like literally has maybe surpassed every young guy in the company, and only Tsuji is in front of him, and Tsuji's the world champion, and they're gonna fight in Sumo Hall in like just a few weeks. Like it's fucking that this is crazy, kinda.
Yeah, it's so weird as well because Tsuji's defended against 2
United
Empire guys.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like in hindsight when you look at it, it's like, wait, it makes all the sense in the world that Callum Newman would win this.
And the fact
but for some reason we all kind of ignored it.
Well, I think the other thing that made the most sense for me, well, you brought up a good point. Unbound Company United Empire, not only has he feuded with those guys, but they as groups have been feuding for a long time now, and that's kind of continued throughout the tour. But I think the thing that makes the most sense of why him getting the win here and sort of being established makes the most sense is because Zach's gone. Or I'm sorry, not Zach. Finley is gone. Osprey is gone. And then also, Jay White is gone. And so you've had in the past few years several of your, and then Gabe Kidd is gone, So some of the top like foreign ace type level guys that you would have all jumped. And really the only guy that's left is Zach. And we've gone to the well with Zach a couple times, and he definitely like holds a station, but they were sort of needing to fill that young, for lack of a better word, gaijin ace sort of role. And it makes sense that suddenly they would go with a guy like him to get him established. And I think maybe some people saw that. I myself was probably looking past it, and it makes sense in hindsight.
Yeah, especially when you have him confirmed to be signed for at least like a couple years before he leaves, inevitably.
That's another good
point. For
the
America money. It's like, well, at least, it's not like the same with Finley and Gabe and that, where it's like year by year basis. It's like, okay, are they going to stay for one more? Are they not? It's like, no, we know we have Callum for this amount of time.
Yeah, I think
we should just use them now.
I think that this generation was needing an antagonist foreigner to really kind of fill out what they have going forward. And now there are stories and matches and, things to build off of when it comes to him and all, Oiwa, Knockout Brothers, Tsuji, everybody. So it makes a lot of sense. Post-match, we got a huge celebration with himself, the United Empire come out. He even paid a very small, just half-second measure of respect to Uemura before standing over him and goading. But Tsuji comes out, they face off, Tsuji holds the title. Newman cuts a promo, says he's the best in the world at this time. He's the youngest New Japan Cup winner ever. The confetti goes off, and he's on his way to facing Tsuji, which they are 1-0. Tsuji has beaten him only in their one ever match, which was last year in the G1 during block tournament action. Newman actually had 8 points going into that match, and then Tsuji jumped ahead with and got 2 points. So that match was only 11 minutes and some change. They've never fought one another in Ryogoku Sumo Hall, Ryogoku Kaguga-kan. So this is a very, very, very big match and opportunity for both of them. We have a lot of questions here about this portion. First question from Stale Burger Bun. Do you think Callum Newman... Now,
I knew you weren't going to know this.
I don't know what the fuck this means, so this is a good reason that you are here. Do you think Callum Newman brutally frame-mogged Yuya Uemura?
Yeah, I knew you were going to have no idea what that meant. I was like, oh my god. So, Lux Maxing, we're not even going to get into it.
I know what Lux Maxing is.
You know Lux Maxing? Okay.
Kinda. I learned about it.
It's kind of in the same genre. It's just where...
Lux Maxing is fucking stupid.
Oh, yeah. Of course it is. These are all stupid terms. I need to say that. It's just where somebody's body frame makes the other person look very small or not as good. So are they saying that Callum was so... Yeah. He body frame mocked him.
Yeah, actually, he kind of did.
Yeah. And it's nothing against Yuya. Yuya is muscly and he's good, but Callum is just... He frame-mogged him. There is no other way to describe it.
So the long and short there is yes. Rambone Slam Pig says, will Callum Newman be acknowledged as the leader of the United Empire in the near future, or do you foresee the currently muddled leadership role to continue for a while?
I feel like he kind of did in the backstage comments. I feel like he was kind of quite clear. It's no, this is my group now.
Yeah, he had some comments the following during the press conference, which I'll touch base on. But yeah, he's definitely leading that way. And it's, I think they're planting the seeds for this eventual matchup between himself and Ospreay. But yeah, I mean, this is, regardless of whether they acknowledge it in kayfabe or not, him just winning this tournament and going where they're going sets the precedent that, he's going to be the leader, period, even if they don't say it outright. Fauci asked, he says, Finley, Shibata, and then also Giant Bernard, but whatever, are the only guys who have ever won the cup and not gone on to eventually win or haven't already won the title. Maybe Finley might have if he'd stuck around, and then obviously Shibata got injured right after that. So do you think Newman's got IWGP Champ Gold in his future if he stays with the company? Or is it going to be tricky for him to get that spot with all the other new folks in the mix?
I think it's a guarantee at some point. I think giving him the New Japan Cup at 23 years old, I think it would be silly to never give him the belt at some point.
We're not doing the full review for Sakura Genesis. That's, still yet to come. But I've kind of said this already a few times in the show, so I'm not going to shy away from it. But could I be wrong? Sure. But I mentioned even as far as early as the preview for this tournament, where I said, if he wins the tournament, he's the only guy in the entire tournament that I could see potentially beating Tsuji. I kind of think they need to have him beat Tsuji now. I think it would solve a lot of problems and create a lot of interesting stories moving forward. I'll speak more to that in the future, but I think he's going to beat Tsuji in just a couple weeks, honestly. I think he's going to be the youngest champion they've ever had.
That would be insane.
It is a little insane, but I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, because when you look at the list of the other young guys who are yet to win it, you're like, ooh, you're going to give it to Callum before them? It's wow.
They love white guys.
They do. White men in this New Japan Cup. Oh my god.
Ethan asks, do you think that the final would have been better with a different winner, or was Callum the right call?
I feel like it all just depends. In 2 weeks, I'll be able to tell you the answer.
Some people really, really, really love this match. I'm not as high as everybody was. I thought it was fantastic. But I saw a lot of people saying match of the year contender, and I personally still rate several of these, Knockout Brother tag team matches and some of the TMDK or like the Yuya and what's his name? Shota tag matches that they had like with Team 100 or whatever their name is. Like I think some of that stuff was better this year. So I thought that this was, I would go like 4.25 plus, but not quite 4.5, if that makes sense. So could there have been a better in-ring match? Sure. But I've really been on the fence about could they establish any of these young guys enough to make them a plausible draw against Tsuji to sell tickets in Ryogoku right now, today. And I thought they did really great establishing and progressing Yuya and Shota. But I don't think they did enough or gave enough to them in the storyline to get them ready to be able to say, okay, Yuya won. We're gonna do gangbusters business in Sumo Hall. I just couldn't see that happening, and I thought Shota was their best bet if they were going to go that way. But even with him, I was like, I don't know if they've done enough to rehab him to get him to a point where they do that business. I don't know how the fans are completely, receptive to this new push with Callum, but from the outside looking in, from a Western perspective, I kind of think that they might do well. We'll wait and see what the ticket situation looks like, but I feel like this was the right way to go for a variety of reasons, and I feel like business-wise, it kind of makes the most sense to me right now. Next question that we had, that dude named Menace, was Callum the right call? So kind of the same question. Do you think they should have gone with anybody else, or is this the thing that makes the most sense to you?
Yeah, that's interesting because I had that written down as a question for you because I remember you saying last week you're thinking that Yuya and Tsuji would not really do great business. So I was like, oh, I wonder how he feels about Callum and Tsuji, if, they would sell tickets or not.
I think it's a crapshoot. I think it's a very, very bold gamble, but I don't know how it's going to pay off. And it's hard for me to like predict how the domestic market's going to react.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think I have much else to add. It's just from a business perspective, it's a wait and see. From a actual match perspective, I think the match is going to be good. I don't think that's like hard to say. You've seen Callum have these other two great matches with Showa's counterparts. Not Showa's, Tsuji's counterparts. So I don't see why, they would have a bad match. I'd be very shocked if it wasn't great.
Death Triangle 720 says, do you think it's a good thing guys like Callum and Yuya don't have a definitive finisher yet? I think this tournament did a good job establishing that both of their arsenals are evolving and they don't need a definitive finisher to win the match. I think he asked that before the finals. Wukong 901 says, thoughts on Callum's new finisher. So I think we both, I'm super high on it and I think it looks great. Yeah,
I love it. I think it's great.
DJ Aftershock, on a scale of late 2010s WWE to 90s All Japan, how fucking rad is Callum's new theme, Make Way for the Prince?
I also had this written down as a question because I cannot tell if I love it or if I hate it.
I'm not that. Okay, I can't say I don't like it because I feel like it fits right in the mix with some of the best New Japan themes from like the mid 2010s. But it's not like I would put it at the top where I'd be like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, I don't like it as much as like Osprey's theme, for instance, which I think is comparable.
Yeah. I think it's like Christian's old WWE theme where they had a woman sing it and they had a man sing it. And it's a big debate on like which version's better. Yeah. So I'm like, maybe we should get a man to cover this.
Oh, wow.
And see like which one is better.
That's how we know we have the right social media manager, Emily, on the show, advocating for men.
Okay, let's not go that far. A masculine voice. It doesn't have to be a man.
Okay, just masculine.
Yeah. Just a bit deeper, that's all.
Death Triangle 720 says, do you think Callum has had one of the most organic pushes since last year's character shift? Yeah, I'd have to say yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
Couple quick comments on the public press conference Monday. This was earlier today from Nagaoka. Again, credit to Charlton and the team at NewJapan1972.com. Some of the things that he mentioned, he talked about proving the doubters wrong, the people that didn't believe in him, say, a year ago. He lists all the achievements that he's had in the last 900 plus days, the tag team titles, challenging for the title as the youngest ever, now winning the cup. He mentioned that he has obliterated Okada's record and proved that he's one of the best in the world. And he, promised that he's going to do the same thing to Nakamura's record when it comes to winning the title. He's the second United Empire member to ever win the New Japan Cup. Ospreay won it the first time in 2021. So he did talk and answer questions about Ospreay because Will had given support to him on socials the day of. He acknowledged that there have been high tensions between the two of them. He mentioned that, Ospreay was the guy that got him into the company, but he felt abandoned because he left for another company that's a rival company. And that all the accomplishments that he's had since then have been off his own back and not really off of Ospreay's work. Since he has come back to the company on January 5th, there's been more contact between them and a little bit more supportive action. But at the end of the day, what he wanted Ospreay to know is that this is his group now. He said, "Sorry, big bro, but United Empire's mine now." And then when asked about Tsuji, he was very dismissive of him, the same way he was about Uemura and Amino. He basically said that he was lucky that he didn't sick all of United Empire on him when he came out to face off with him the night prior and interrupted his moment. He says that he already is looking past Tsuji, so he's being extremely confident. He has his focus on dominating the entire world, that he wants the Callum Newman stock to skyrocket, and he doesn't care if you're all elite or a superstar or wherever you're from. It doesn't really matter. Basically, the wrestling world's going to have to make way for the prince and then kiss the crown. So a lot of kind of big, bold, declarations here from Callum in this first major press conference. Some of the things that he's talked about here, Emily, they allude to some of the story beats that you have laid out. Any thoughts there?
I think the way that Callum is currently telling the Ospreay story versus the way Ospreay is telling it is very different. Ospreay's on social media being like, "Yay, oh my god, I love you, like, good job." And Callum's had nothing nice to say. Mm-hmm. And it's like, is Ospreay actually is he actually watching? Did he see the end of New Year's Dash where he almost got brained with the chair?
I swear to God, in the early iterations of AEW, me and my friends would talk about how Kenny would the stuff that was going on.
He wasn't
watching the show, and so there'd be this stuff with Kenny and Hangman where he didn't know that Hangman was turning heel and all that, and it's like, did you not watch did you not go back and
No,
it's on TV, you just TiVo it, bro.
Kayfabe didn't watch the show. But then Ospreay is clearly watching because he's posting pictures of Callum, and it's like, wait, how much are you paying attention? Are you listening to the words he's saying, or are you just watching the matches?
I think some of the story beats you've laid out, where it's the different ways they can go with this, whether it's if he's successful, how does that play into this future, confrontation between these guys? Or if he fails, how is he going to spin that and kind of put the blame on Ospreay? You know what I mean? He's saying that everything he's gotten is on his own, but you just know if he does lose, then it's going to be well, it's Ospreay's fault. And then it's well,
obviously.
But yeah, I thought one thing I do like about this is doing Tanahashi Ace of the Universe. One of the things that he did a lot of that the only person I ever see Tsuji do, or the only person I see do this stuff is Tsuji, and the rest of the young guys fail at it, except for the one time Shota Umino said he was the Shiaku, which was fucking stupid. But constantly Tanahashi for years, even before he won the title, would make these big, bold proclamations about carrying the company on his back and ushering in the new generation and restoring the spirit and the heart and blah, 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 blah. And he would say this stuff when he was not pushed as the top guy. And then it was Ali, eventually self-fulfilling prophecy. And Tsuji's the only other guy that I ever see completely bought in on what he's doing and making those kinds of like statements. And now you're seeing Callum do that. And the rest of the young guys, as good as they all are, I don't see that stuff coming from them. And I think it's refreshing to see these guys who are they're promoting and selling not only themselves, but the product and the show by like basically saying like, this is what I'm going to do. And like, fuck everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a couple last questions here. Tim Hunter, what was your favorite match of the tournament and who's your overall tournament MVP?
MVP's probably Yuya, just from like a match perspective. Match wise, Zach and Oiwa, it was a good one. I liked Yuya and Bolton a lot. I said that already. And then maybe Bolton and ELP, just like give a range.
There have been a lot of this was a great tournament, honestly.
Consistently good.
I do think that the Umino-Zach match that one was really up there. I thought the Oiwa-Zach match was also really high. Shota Umino, Callum Newman's probably my match of the tournament personally, but I think a lot of people have Uemura and Newman higher, which I could see that. But for me, Newman's the MVP, for a variety of reasons. I think that there's probably some people who have an higher average, like quote unquote match star rating, but for everything he accomplished, it's hard for me to argue him not being, especially on those last two nights, the MVP. Rambone says, who came out of New Japan Cup with their standing in the company noticeably improved? Did anyone see their stocks noticeably fall?
Why did Yujiro end up as one of the people where I've gone, wow, you're so much better than I thought?
Yeah, Yujiro had a really good showing in the tournament.
Yujiro and Callum are my answers.
I would say Callum. I would say Uemura, Shota. I thought Oleg Bolton. Those were all guys that I thought their stocks rose through the course of this tournament. People I saw drop, Jake Lee. It was already low, but I think it got worse.
It was already pretty bad.
I felt like Fale, as unbelievable as that is.
Yeah.
I think Narita.
Owens.
Yeah, I think House of Torture as a whole, basically, except for Yujiro.
Yeah, and then maybe kayfabe-wise, I guess maybe Goto, because he didn't go super far.
There could be some kayfabe answer to Aaron Wolf. That's also...
Oh, God.
we
haven't spoken much about him.
Yeah.
He took dick-to-dick contact in that last tag match. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is the Olympic gold medalist.
Careford 13, might be too early to predict, but should Tsuji lose the world title to Newman or lose the global title first to somebody else?
I don't even know. Like, who would
I will
challenge
say this.
for the global that could beat him?
I don't think he should drop the global before he drops the IWGP. I think it's a huge conundrum. It's terrible. It would be a mistake.
Yeah.
Death Triangle 720, do you think this year's New Japan Cup has utilized its youth more than the past 2 years? Would you say that the field has shifted for the young talent after their New Japan Cup performances? It feels like a lot of them have somewhat figured out their styles and how it fits with their characters. I mean, I feel like we've talked a lot about this, but it's pretty clear. It's very clear, like they've never put this many young guys this far into the tournament and trusted them to this degree. So,
yeah, it's something they probably should have trusted them with 2 years ago and are only just getting around to it. But I'm not going to complain now that we're actually here.
Death Triangle 720, Chris Sampson said something about this generation needing guys that are a bit more selfish and willing to fight for the top spot. Do you think we've found this? And I think that kind of that speaks to what I was mentioning about the persona and attitude we're seeing from guys like Tsuji and Newman right now.
Yeah.
That dude named Menace, does this mean Yuya or Shota gets a G1 win?
I think this is just a good position for New Japan to be in, to have believable young guys, like multiple, that already were going, okay, they can win the G1 at the end of August.
I agree. Stinkface_lover says, do the Oiwa, Shota Umino, and Yuya Uemura, do they need more diverse gimmicks? At the moment, they're all sort of good dudes who like wrestling like Tanahashi and want to be the ace like him. I think they're all talented wrestlers, but none of them stand out in a similar way to the way Okada, Nakamura, or Naito did. Even Yota Tsuji, who's the most unique, has lost some of that smiling, cocky swagger and now just seems like a stylish champion who's also a good dude who likes Tanahashi and wants to be the ace.
Yeah, I think I feel like he's still going to change a lot. I think there's going to be more blending for the rest of the year for him. The other two, I'm not too sure. I feel like if Oiwa wins this tag thing with Zack, that's going to sort of send him on a different path that perhaps he needs. Yuya, we don't really know what he's doing next. So
I think he should grow the hair out is what he needs to do first.
I think his hair is perfect.
First and foremost.
I think his hair is beautiful the way it is.
I think there's too much samey going on there, though. I do think that there needs to be differentiation, and I feel like those are the three prime candidates to be the leaders of Hantai. Even though Oiwa clearly is with TMDK, you could definitely see like a through line where at any given moment he could transition and be like the top Hantai like ace of the company. So it is weird because on the one hand they all kind of fit that mold, but you also kind of want something that differentiates them from everybody and puts them in that next, stratosphere.
Yeah, the thing is they're just all connected to Tanahashi because he was the only old guy left. Like Okada left, Naito left. There was no one else to be connected to.
And the funny thing is like with Tanahashi is like he was so different from all of the aces that preceded him. He definitely like borrowed quite a bit from like Mutoism, and so there is a little connection there, but Muto was gone from the company, but Tanahashi really like reframed and restructured what the company was into his own definitive image of what structure, style of pro wrestling and how he wanted to be presented. And I feel like the next iteration of New Japan is going to need to be not cosplaying Tanahashi, but something genuinely fresh and different, new and exciting. And, there are too many guys just trying to be the Tanahashi specifically. Yeah. Make way for Slide. It feels like most of the new generation folks have some sort of direction after New Japan Cup, except for Uemura. What do you think comes next for him?
I think it depends how Shooter and Takeshita turns out. And I think it also depends how Newman and Tsuji turns out. But for actually this upcoming event, I don't really know what he's going to be doing.
Historically, the runner-up in New Japan Cup gets the May title defense.
Yeah.
But if you do have...
But I think if Callum wins,
yeah.
You don't do that.
Yeah, you might not want to do that. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. We'll
see. JARO2 says, how do you book Yuya until the G1 happens?
Again,
I have no idea.
If Showa loses, you can go back to the tag team, I guess. But then it's like you can't lose another tag title shot.
I kind of like the idea that you laid out of him pursuing the winner of Takeshita and Shota, going for that title.
Yeah.
Last question here. Angel Eyes. They finally put the young guys first, but Tsuji's first title defense being against Lee and Newman is an interesting choice. Do you think they've had enough faith in this new generation to go all the way with someone like Yuya right now and have him win the G1 and dethrone Tsuji? And I think they are.
Yeah, I think so.
That is going to do it. That is our review. So we have the Road to Sakura Genesis coming up. Night 1 will take place this coming Saturday. Honestly, it's a bunch of preview matches. Yasuda versus Matsumoto will open the show. Kushida will take on Taisi Nakahara. And then from there, it's essentially continuations of the same feuds that we've been seeing, sort of just on the road. The top 2 matches of that show, and me and Jeremy will do a full quasi review because it is essentially just a standard Road 2 show. But the semi-main event will see Yuto Ice, Oscar, and Geto taking on TMDK's Oiwa, Zack, and Hartley. So preview for the tag titles, and then the Unbound Companies, Tsuji, Shingo, Ishimori, Robbie X returning, and Daiki Nagai will take on Callum Newman, Jake Lee, Francesco Akira, Jacob Austin Young, and Zane J. Question from Incident Known 8537. What's the ceiling for Zane J?
I have no idea. He's a bit of an odd one. I feel like he could be like a Gabe kind of level, like a global level. But then, I don't know, maybe he can go even further than that.
Yeah, I think it's too early to place a ceiling on a guy like that without knowing. But I think he's got the looks and the aptitude to potentially go all the way. It's way too early. One thing that I think is interesting is how, like, he said he graduated, but he's clearly, like, still kind of a young lion. But what's different about him versus, like, when Daiki Nagai joined LIJ is that he's not working young lion matches. Technically, he's just the young lion of United Empire, but he's not working lion openers anymore. He's basically, at this point, like their Hikuleo.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if you were watching at the time, but he's like their Cody Hall.
No.
So we had a couple things that were announced for the tour. We'll do previews in the future, but on April 2nd, night 4 of the Road to Sakura Genesis, Takeshita will be taking on Tatsuya Matsumoto. That's interesting. The IWGP Junior Tag Team titles will be defended as Robbie X and Ishimori defend against Francesco Akira and JAY. Doki will be defending the title against Yo in the main event that evening. They have a 1-1 all-time record. And then there were 4 title matches announced for Sakura Genesis on April the 4th. The openweight 6-man tag team titles. Oh yeah, it is on the run sheet. Bishamon and Oleg Boltin defend against House of Torturers, Owens, Narita, and Yujiro. The World Television title will be on the line as Takeshita defends against Shota Umino. The IWGP Tag Team titles will be defended as the Knockout Brothers defend against TMDK's Oiwa and Zach. And then your main event, Tsuji versus Callum Newman. Couple quick questions about that. JARO2, do you think Shota should beat Konosuke?
I could see it going time limit and draw, to be honest.
I'm so sick of the time limit draw for that fucking title.
I don't know, though. It could.
It depends on really how much stock you want to put into that title run, but I wouldn't be opposed to Shota winning, but I kind of feel...
It's just such an odd title to be your first.
Yeah, and I also think...
And 2026. I'm like, okay.
I think the fact that he beat Takeshita in last year's G1 and this is sort of a revenge means Takeshita is going to get that revenge. And I think that he still has this, like, he just lost in the tournament. He's going to lose here. And now he needs to rebuild to get into the G1.
Yeah. I did, like, Shota had some backstage comments about it. And he sort of quite deadpan, was just like, oh, I'm sorry, Takeshita, my fan signing went a little long, like I didn't catch what you said about me. And so he was asking the press, he was like, what was he actually saying? Like, I was busy. I'm popular.
Death Triangle 720, question for Emily. What is your stance on New Japan not highlighting the juniors on the main pay-per-view shows? It's been 2 years since we had junior title matches at Sakura Genesis, and the one that they did have, which was Sho and Yo, that match had an injury that occurred.
I think the initial, idea and start of it, of putting the juniors on this show, it was good. Like, it was, we'll give them a highlight. It gives fans a reason to tune in to an extra show. This extra spotlight. Like, I think it was working really well, especially business-wise too. Now it feels more like a relegation. Mm-hmm. It's something they spoke about on the last night with Fujita, who was going after Tsuji a lot in the tag match. And it was like, well, maybe partly the reason why he's going after the heavyweight champion is because he's upset that the juniors are always put on these Korakuen shows, and he wants to, show the top guy that, hey, we deserve to be on the big show too.
That's interesting.
So it's weird that they're acknowledging it. They kind of know that it's sort of starting to become a negative.
It is weird. They just say whatever the fuck backstage. You just never, Boston Crab Rangoon asks, any ideal situation for Tsuji to defend both belts at Dantaku if his defense is successful against Callum? And I guess that this is basically assuming he's
if
successful
he
here, and then
retains.
and then in May, do you want to see him defend twice?
Yeah, it would. I don't know if he would defend twice.
Here's the only way
if he's
I could
successful,
see that.
it's Yuya. But
I think the only way it works is if they do multiple nights of Dantaku.
yeah, like a night 1, night 2 situation.
I think that he's going to drop the IWGP title in April, and then I think he'll regain it in like late June at Dominion. And I think in May, you'll be seeing the one and only successful IWGP defense from Callum.
Okay.
That's
interesting. Because I thought maybe they would do Zack and Suji kind of at Dominion.
They could.
But I'm not sure. Yeah, so I would have Callum holding it
I guess
a much shorter amount of time.
For me, I want him to also come off that white belt, so it's also kind of like, okay, it's a short period of time. How do you get him to
lose twice?
Yeah, the other thing that could happen is I could see Callum holding potentially the title through the G1 all the way up to October, and then he drops it at King of Pro Wrestling to Suji. And then also, of course, there's always Forbidden Door, which is also, that something you kind of have to account for, and you never know what could happen there.
But then you don't even know. That's not even got a date yet.
No, but it's always something.
It's usually post G1.
It's always one of those things that I don't think about based on classical booking.
There's going to be nobody on it because Tanahashi's not here anymore.
No, what I mean specifically is like when it comes to like trying to predict the IWGP title, I don't think about that date as being part of like the history of like what Gedo does. But then you kind of have to remember like, oh well, they could.
Naito won it.
Yeah, they could do something there. You never know. So, that's gonna do it. That is our preview for next week. We got a couple news items, and then we're gonna get out of here. So, G136 opening night tickets have already went on sale this past Saturday, and it was also announced. This is pretty big. For the opening night, they will exclusively have tournament matches, no undercard tags whatsoever. So it's going to be closer to the classic like 2014 G1 style, where all A block, all B block, the whole way down. That's pretty rare for the G1, and that's super exciting. I will say, me and Jeremy, we have already procured our tickets. We will be actually with friends of the show up in a suite. So that's
fancy.
Fancy. So we
Do
are.
you get food?
I
like
don't
in the suite.
I think you can order it. It's like
okay.
Yeah. I would have preferred for it to be like fully catered, but I didn't book it. So.
Oh, of course. I mean.
But we did get a good deal, so we'll be there. We're excited for that. Best of the Super Juniors 33. This year, the entries are going to be announced online each day between the 28th of March and April 2nd. And then the last two entries and blocks will be revealed at Sakura Genesis on April 4th. Ethan asked us, no need to answer if you'd rather talk about Super Juniors, but if you could choose one previous participant to be removed and one new entrant to be added, who would it be? So I guess he's saying like, who would you get rid of from Super Juniors and who would you add if you could?
Probably someone from House of Torture. Just one of them. It doesn't really matter at this point.
It does matter, and at this point, it would be Sho. I would much rather have a Kanemaru or a Doki.
That's why Kanemaru came to my mind first, but then I was like, no, maybe it should be Sho. I don't know.
In terms of like adding somebody, I feel like for me it would be someone from the outside, but I'm not one of those people where it's just got to be someone dynamic like a dream opponent, but it needs to be somebody that like has, how do I put it? Like impact beyond just, oh, they're there,
Yeah, for sure. So, DDT has a lot of small guys right now, like small young guys that would do really well.
And see, I don't really know the landscape for the juniors outside of New Japan. Obviously Amakusa, he's the GHC champion, or he was in January, and he's a guy that I really, really love. but I don't know how that would work, but that's somebody that I feel like whoever it is, if it's somebody from the outside, I want to see them go far. I don't want them to just be there filling space and like having good matches and losing. I want it to be somebody who like goes deep and threatens to potentially win and maybe elevates the status of whatever company it is that they come from. But at the same time, New Japan might be in poaching season, so I don't know if you want to send your junior champion over if you're an outside group, whoever that may be.
Yeah, lock them up.
March 8th, Pro Wrestling Eve, Wrestle Kingdom 8 took place. We talked about that last week. The match between Alex Windsor and Shuri for the Strong Women's title is now available on New Japan World, so you can watch that. That's available. March 18th, ProWrestlingToday.com, there was a special interview with Hiroshi Tanahashi discussing Aaron Wolf's progression and commitment to pro wrestling. There was also some kerfuffle online about some of the comments that he made regarding dealing with contracts and talents. And there was a lot of controversy about the machine Google translating of the interview and missing out on nuance and maybe misrepresenting the language that was being used there and people fighting about that. So I don't want to say too much, but that what was alleged but apparently poorly translated was the idea of maybe locking guys up to longer term deals and maybe finding ways to secure talent to prevent them from leaving, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of controversy, but it's going to happen again. People are always going to just use the bad translators and stick it out. So can't wait to do this again in a couple months.
March 21st, AEW Collision, Slam Dunk Saturday, Kyle Fletcher defeated Robbie Eagles to defend the TNT title. That was Eagles' third match in 2026 after those Australia shows. And, Eagles trained Kyle, so, his senpai, so that was pretty cool. March 22nd, there was DDT Judgment. I'm sure you probably saw this.
I saw this.
Takeshita defeated Kazuri Hirata. I don't know the full gimmick, but I saw that they did a 19.99 near count.
Yes, so I love this match. You would hate it. you would absolutely hate it. Takeshita, Kazuki had this huge entrance, like 5-minute entrance, live music. It was amazing. Takeshita beat him with one move. So they restarted the match. Takeshita beat him again with one move. So they changed the rules that Takeshita needed a 20 count to win.
Oh my god.
And Kazuki only needed a 2 count. And then Takeshita beat him by a submission.
Wait, is Kazuki, he's not the idol guy, is he?
He's the Tokyo Go guy. No, he's not the idol guy.
Oh, okay. April 16th, there was announcements for the Death Pain Invitational. So 2 announced matches involving New Japan talent. There will be a high-stakes Heartbreak Jackpot match.
What does that mean?
I think it's a 3-way ladder match, but it's a Dragon Kid and Starlight. No, I think it's just a tag team ladder match. I could be wrong, but it's a Dragon Kid and Starlight Kid teaming up against El Phantasmo and Maki Ito.
I mean, it'll be good. I just don't know what that means yet, is all.
I don't think that will be good.
Well, we have very different viewpoints.
And then they also announced a Love and Pieces 3-way death match at Journey's End. Featuring Nick Gage and Matt Tremont versus Masashi Takeda and Rina Yamashita and El Desperado and Jun Kasai. So that's probably going to be the main event. I did see that tickets are on sale for this via New Japan's website, so I don't think it's like...
I think they're mostly sold out, though. I think it's like standard room only.
I haven't looked. I'm not going to Vegas, so I wouldn't know.
No, me either.
April 17th, Zack Sabre Jr. was announced for Bloodsport 15, so he'll be making his debut for Josh Barnett. May 22nd, they announced that Ren Narita will be facing Tatsumi Fujinami, while Yujiro Takahashi will take on Leona, announced for the Tradition event on that date in Corkin Hall. Recently, at the anniversary event, we saw the father-son duo team up with Hontai and lose to House of Torture, so this is kind of a continuation of that. I'm sure everyone's very much looking. It is weird that like in 2026 that Yujiro is like the more exciting and like the guy I'm like, higher on than Leona.
Yujiro's having another match.
And then the final thing here before we go. So Voices of Wrestling Patreon, and credit to the guys over at Super J-Cast, especially Joel Abraham, and then Open the Voice Gate. They had some updates on the Voices of Wrestling Patreon behind their paywall, discussing, and I cleared this with Joel before I mentioned it, so this is not like me, stepping on their toes, but there was
stealing it.
No, I wouldn't do that. But there was an update on Evil and Hiromu's futures, and then news on potential New Japan talent recruitment, with at least 5 different names being discussed, and one possible confirmed signee per the updates and work that those guys are doing. Now, we did have a question here from Reddit, and this question actually lists all the people that they listed, and I'm not going to read that. In fact, I would say Solid Deuce, I can't delete your comment off of my Reddit post, but you may want to consider editing it, or just because those guys, I think they do. I'm sure there are portions of the Twitterverse and Discords where people are saying the names. We have access to the Patreon. So
yeah, I had heard the names already.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the names, but there's definitely talk of discussion of New Japan maybe changing some of their tactics and recruiting both freelancers as well as people that are in other companies domestically and abroad that are, near the end of their contract. So it's a kind of it's a shift away from the way that they've done business in the past. But we did have a question from Solid Deuce. So he said, thoughts on VOW's reporting of potential new signees. Some names were announced. Aside from that, are there any other wrestlers you think could fit into New Japan?
Not any off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure there is.
I would love if anyone could just make it work for Katsuhiko Nakajima to come to New Japan. It's just never going to happen, but I feel like that could, let's make it happen. Why the fuck
What's
not?
he even doing? What's he doing nowadays?
He was working Glee, and he was their champion.
I saw him. I was in person. I saw him at Glee, but I didn't know if he was still there.
No, I think he's kind of.
That was 2 years ago.
No, he's kind of done. His runs there are done, and he's freelancing. Right. He just recently worked. Okay. He worked Hayabusa. I think a lot of people love that match, but I don't know. I don't know enough about what he's doing, but I don't know the landscape that. I will say this: some of the names that were listed make a lot of sense. I would, if you're able to, I would support those guys. Jump on their Patreon. I think it's on the $1 tier, and it's really well written, and you can see the names that have been discussed. Some of them, I will say this: some of them have already worked New Japan in the past in various capacities, and make sense as guys that they might be looking at. Some of them are sort of out of left field that are a little unexpected to me. I can't think of any other names that are out there because maybe I just don't know the landscape that well, but I think that there's some interesting talents that they're looking at, but it also is, it's a little bit, what's the word? Hypocritical because of all the complaints that have been going on for years about talent poaching to New Japan and them being a feeder system. And now suddenly out of necessity, they might be turning around and doing the same thing to smaller independent companies within Japan.
Yeah, it's definitely a catch-22 there. You have to kind of practice what you preach.
But that
maybe you don't.
That is going to do it. That's all the news and all the reviews. So that is going to wrap up our review of this year's New Japan Cup 2026. Emily, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Before we get out of here, tell the people where they can find your work once again.
Yes, I'm at MBstar on everything. If you go to Twitter, it's all there, but I'm also on Medium, so you can read my blog if you want.
Awesome. Well, I highly encourage you guys to do that. She does incredible work, and anytime you see a post from our socials, it's not me, it's not Jeremy, it's Emily. So
please like it.
Yeah, please like it, support it, because it's not us, it's her. She actually gets paid per interaction.
Yeah, guys, it's really tough out here. I'm really grinding.
Oh man, so we are so glad to have Emily back. But next week I will be back, possibly with Jeremy, but to review Road to Sakura Genesis Night 1, and then also preview all the upcoming remaining Road to Sakura Genesis. Remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongstyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keepin' It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex. You can follow Jeremy at Jeremy L. Donovan. I am at YB_Joshin Liger. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex. And the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, Jeremy is the pro black guy, and I am Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we're at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio with Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Sumowitz. Imp's AEW Adventure with Implications Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Things. AEW Match Guide with Sam Brown. Tunnel Talk with Ali, Ann, and Leah. The Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, and Joshing Around with Tim and Eric. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.